Okay, welcome to my channel, everybody. I'm JayDreamerZ. I don't know what happened. I literally just turned the volume on and it turned itself off. Sorry about that. Today we're going to be talking about plasma physics and when the sky itself was indeed plasma. As you can see, as I said here, people in the ancient world looked up and they saw this immediately during and after the plasma apocalypse, during the last cycle. It's important for people like myself to study these things, not just because they're entertaining, not just because they're very interesting, which they are, but because they're detrimental to my survival. They're detrimental to me understanding what happened in the past so I can be better prepared for it when it happens again in the very near future, which is just around the corner. So we're going to be studying plasma physics today. We're going to be hearing from Anthony Peratt about his findings and comparisons between plasma that was seen in the ancient sky and petroglyphs. Okay, so this is going to be a very interesting presentation. I'm going to be commenting as we go as well, and I'm going to break down a scientific lecture, hopefully in ways that make it easy for your common person to understand. And we're going to start things out. Let me double check the chat just to make sure everything sounds good. Man, I'm sorry about that. Really sorry about that, everybody. I don't know what happened. I checked it right before we started. These things have a mind of their own. All right, so let's jump in, and we're going to begin with this guy right here. Okay, so this guy right here. I'll leave a link to the video. It's the one I'm watching. This is probably reposted on many different channels. I'm checking out Electric Universe Eyes, who's done many good works on the electric universe. So thank you to that person and shout out to them. I'll leave a link once this presentation's over in the description. But this guy right here is Anthony Peratt. So who is that? Let's check him out first because he's going to be the speaker. We need to understand who he is and why it's important. Anthony Peratt is an American physicist whose most notable achievements have been in plasma physics, plasma petroglyphs, nuclear fusion, and the monitoring of nuclear weapons. Peratt was a graduate student and of the Nobel Prize winning person, Alfred Haynes. He received a PhD in electrical engineering, plasma physics, went to the University of Southern California. He was awarded the Master of Science in Electrical Engineering in 1967. Let's see, what else? He held a position of a great physicist at the Max Planck Institute for Physics and Astrophysics in Munich from 75 to 77. He works and has worked since 1981 at the Los Alamos National Laboratory, serving in the Applied Theoretical Physics Division. He had a sabbatical in 1985 as a guest scientist at the Alphen Laboratory of the Royal Institute of Technology in Stockholm. He led the in-tunnel diagnostics programs for Los Alamos at the Nevada Test Site, nuclear testing ground, from 91 to 93. I'll explain what this all means in just a moment. He became a leader of the American inspection team for the Russian Arctic nuclear test site at Novaya Zemlya. Peratt was seconded as a scientific advisor to the United States Department of Energy from 95 to 99. While working for the U.S. Department of Energy, he was the acting director, National Security, Nuclear Non-Proliferation Directorate in 1998. His research: he's worked on high-energy density plasmas and related phenomenon, intense particle beams and intense microwave sources, explosively driven pulse power generators, the Z-pinch effect, and nuclear fusion target designs. I'll explain some of that as we go. He is an influential proponent of plasma cosmology, which is very similar to the electric universe and other fringe-type cosmologies. A non-standard cosmology proposed as an alternative to the Big Bang and rejected by mainstream cosmologists. I like them already. He wrote a book on the subject, was a guest editor for the Space Plasma Special Editions, and wrote some papers on the subject. He's also published work connecting the Ouroboros motif to intense auroral events. I'm going to share with you what the Ouroboros is as well and compare it to his findings. What else we got? He wrote a paper, which I might share with you guys too, called The Characteristics of the Occurrence for high current Z-pinch auroras as recorded in antiquity, squatter, squatting man, Anthony Peratt. All that means is he writes about this glyph, a petroglyph, known affectionately as the squatter man or the squatting man. It's also Atlas holding his arms up in the air. And he compares that to plasma formations that were seen in the ancient sky. Peratt's name is listed among the scientists signing an open letter to the scientific community that critiques the growing number of hypothetical entities in the Big Bang Theory. The letter also states that plasma cosmology, the steady state model, and other alternative approaches can also explain the basic phenomenon of the cosmos. So I will tell you this, as convincing as this is going to be, or as convincing as it is to me, mainstream academics shuns this. They shun the electric universe model. They shun the plasma cosmology and everything, right? They don't believe in any of this. But what I'm about to present to you is rather compelling to myself. So let me make sure you guys can hear the audio, and we'll jump in.
Certainly a great pleasure for me to be here today and presenting what is ongoing research right now to the point that this presentation is not quite as glossy or not quite as contained as I would like, but I think I can make do. This is somewhat different. It was very refreshing to listen to Wall's talk on the electric universe, and I guess I played a role, somewhat of a role in establishing what is called the plasma universe, which is about the same thing. Very refreshing to see that. It's a field that I worked in for, gosh, 2.5 decades or so, and right now I'm working in something very closely related, but it's different. It's petroglyphs. Okay, it's not galaxies, rotation magnetic fields in galaxies, which we produced, which is on our websites or in any number of publications. But it's carvings on rock by man in prehistory. Now, why are these important? This is a picture that I took on the Navajo reservation, and which is absolutely typical of petroglyphs that one will find around the world. As I'm going to show, petroglyphs...
You'll have to excuse him, he's probably extremely nervous. Okay, so whenever we start getting to the important stuff, I'm going to translate, okay? He's going to speak scientifically. I'm going to take that and build a bridge to our common knowledge. So it'll make perfect sense to you in just a bit.
Have a definite orientation. They also change in morphology and shape depending on the latitude that they're found on Earth.
Now, hold on. Let me explain what he's saying. So he's been studying, along with some other plasma physicists and proponents of the electric universe, they've been studying and comparing petroglyphs, rock carvings, rock art, and what do you call it? Pictograms or whatever, right? From ancient people. They've been comparing those images, the really strange ones especially, the ones that modern academics can't explain, the ones where they say they were all high on peyote and they went into the spirit world and they drew spirit world formations or whatever, right? That's never made sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me. And what they did is they said, wow, plasma formations perfectly match almost every time across the board these petroglyphs and all these strange creations or drawings or artwork or whatever. Oh, and he's also saying that they will also change in how they look, even though everyone around the world's drawing the same thing because they can see it high up in the sky, right? It changes slightly depending on your perspective and where you are and how far away you are from the North Pole, which is where I believe much of these things happen. Most of them actually happen, and they will happen again. All right, sweet. Let's continue on.
And this is typically, this is at about 36 degrees latitude north, so it's lower than the United Kingdom, but perfectly typical around the Earth, and the duck-shaped heads appear everywhere as well as these.
Okay, hold on. Now, if you can see right here, there's like a stick figure of a man with a duck on his head. That's what he's talking about, these duck-shaped images. Now, the duck shape or the duck head, especially the duck-headed god, is one of these petroglyphs that's seen around the world. And I'll show you exactly why. In short terms, the duck head is plasma. Okay, I'm going to show you exactly how that relates. Here's an image right here. Okay, so here's the classic example of a petroglyph depicting different plasma formations. Okay, they draw them over and over again or whatever, right? You can see this one actually has the line that continues all the way up through the quote-unquote duck. It's not an actual duck. It's not, they were high on drugs. This is a plasma formation. Sometimes they personify it. Sometimes they project their understanding of the world and their interpretations into their drawings. However, they saw these in the sky, okay? And what this is, the one with the duck head on top especially, right? The largest one is seen at the North Pole because it has the largest opening that goes into the Earth where these plasmas actually come from. Bear with me, I'll explain the difference between geoplasmas that come up from the Earth and cosmic plasmas that come down from the dome or the sky when it cracks open. This is also represented in many movies, right? You'll see the ducky symbolism, the rubber ducky. So this is Neo from the latest Matrix movie. He represents that largest, brightest beam of light, geoplasmas, that erupt from the Earth at the North Pole and form this duck-headed figure. And this is why he has the duck on his head in the movie. And then I'll share this with you. This is from one of my compilation videos if you want to watch it. It's called Ball Lightning and Foo Fighters. It's a compilation of ball lightning that I made. A man has stopped on the side of the road because there's this huge electrical storm, and he records ball lightning moving every which way. And this is way before AI became a thing, okay? So this is authentic. Now check this out. I'm going to play it. This is regular speed. Look at the ducks. Look at the rabbits. Look at all the little formation. Look, there's like an ostrich or bird of some kind, right? I'm interpreting what I see. That was definitely a rabbit. That's a duck. You see what I'm saying? Right? So, I could play this back many different times. I'll play it one more time for those who are watching during the live stream. You guys can slow it down later if you want to and check it out, okay? So you'll see these, what look like birds, ostriches, whatever, flying through the sky. Sometimes look like rubber duckies. Sometimes look like little rabbits. And this is where we get the symbolism for Easter. And what do ducks and rabbits and eggs and all this stuff have anything to do with Easter? Easter is the exact same thing or similar to, if not the equivalent of, the day of Pentecost that's talked about in the Bible. And on the day of Pentecost, it's the day whenever the Holy Spirit rushed through all these places. People could all of a sudden understand one another in their own language. That's because the atmosphere became electrically amplified and increased through resonance, their own spirits, their own knowledge, their own synaptic activity, neuron activity in their brain. Basically, it allowed people to be telepathic whenever all this energy swooshes through the air during this particular time. Okay? All right, let's get back to the presentation.
These other symbols, and I'm going to go into why. My first introduction to petroglyphs was by David Talbot. I went to a meeting of his by accident.
All right, now let me tell you who David Talbot is. If you go to YouTube, there is a channel. I don't know if I have it up right now. Is this it? No, that's not it. There's a channel called The Thunderbolts Project, right? And David Talbot is associated with that particular channel and their work. He runs the Electric Universe model, and they look at these plasma formations and they try to piece them together and see how they fit into their own concept of space and the planets. And basically, in short, they understand that these petroglyphs were plasma formations that were seen on a titanic scale. I mean, the world across. Everyone saw these plasma formations. They hypothesize, because they have more of a modern academic view of quote-unquote space, or a modern academic cosmological view, right? So this is kind of how they see things having happened in the ancient sky. They propose and suppose, just as Velikovsky and others have, that planets got really close, and when they came so close to one another, I can't explain why this would happen, because I don't believe in this particular theory, okay? I like it. I think it's creative, especially if that's your only worldview. But they suppose that it caused a discharge to happen. So electricity built up, energy built up between all these planets, and it shot a beam of electricity, a beam of plasma, from one planet to another, and eventually to us, where it hit the Earth, allegedly, right? So it makes these types of images in the sky, right? I'll tell you right now, people did see something similar to this in the sky, but this large quote-unquote planet, that's the apex dome. Okay, so we have a firmament above us, which is like a big upside-down bowl. At the top of that, we have a regular bowl, which is attached to it. Okay, so the firmament actually bows downward at the top, creating the quote-unquote all-seeing eye. And then it's kind of rippled, right? I don't want to go into too much detail, but there's a hole that opens up in our sky. It's the depressurization point for our atmosphere when the sky opens up. And then we have a beam of energy. Now, I will always tell you, and I will always be of the mind, that this beam of energy did not come from above. There is one time when it will come from above, which is going to happen in our very near future. And hopefully I remember to come back to that. But during this age and this eon for a very long time, when people saw this figure in the sky, this pole that reached up to the heavens, it came upwards from the Earth itself, actually. And I'll tell you why as we continue and progress.
And learn something about what they were doing. And then he showed me some pictures, and I looked at the pictures, and I said, where did you get these pictures? Because I had never seen them outside of an unclassified environment, to tell you the truth.
Okay, hold on. I happened to glance down at my phone because I have the chat down here on my phone, and I saw a question from Jeff Cook, who says, JayDreamerZ, do you think the metals in the atmosphere are to deflect the plasma back, or a shield of sorts? Thank you so much for your question. I believe personally that they are spraying the skies and obviously putting metals in small metallic particles in the sky for a few different reasons, but to me the main one is not to kill everybody or anything like that. It is actually to protect not everyone, but their offspring, their children, and themselves. Why? Because those small particles in the atmosphere hopefully would act to spread out and disperse plasma that does come down from the heavens, and I'll explain that in a minute too. Also, the sun itself is going to get so hot that it will start to scorch the earth. It will start to burn the earth. It's more difficult for the sun to do that if there's a bunch of clouds and particulates and small metal pieces up there that absorb that heat. So although it is toxic and stuff like that, I think it's the lesser of the two evils that they may be choosing. That's my view on that.
And they're on rocks. They're on rocks. Where are these rocks stored? What vault? It's got these rocks, and I was kind of.
He's explaining his conversation he had with the Electric Universe guy, who says, "Hey, I've seen these plasma formations before in petroglyphs all around the world." This guy, that's his first time hearing the comparison. And he said, "Where did you see these images?" Because he was actually sharing the petroglyph images, right? He thought that it was classified information. But the other guy was like, no, these are just petroglyphs. These are all around the world, right?
What am I going to do now? And he said, oh no, they're all over. They're petroglyphs. They're all over the place. And I was stunned. Having worked in what's called high energy density plasmas, high energy density in nuclear physics, I was stunned that these pictures, apparently thousands of years old, preceded what we'd only been recording for about 2 years with our new facilities. It costs a lot of money. Okay. This is a typical petroglyph panel in Arizona. Again, it is typical at a large number of latitudes found around the world. To most people looking at this, these are abstract designs, abstract by the ancients that may have been, maybe did not have full control of their facilities, whatever, to draw things like this. In fact, I'm going to show you that these are very, very accurate replications of what was seen in the ancient sky. Art locations, rock art. It's often called rock art. And actually, rock art is a good name. These are typical locations, the well-known locations around the world. In fact, petroglyphs are found on virtually any granite or basalt surface or any good rock palette that has certain characteristics with regards to orientation. And you could almost fill in the entire picture black where there are mountains, where there are rocks.
Okay, so let me explain what I just said in a nutshell. Petroglyphs are found by the thousands, if not millions, all across the world, and where you will find them will depend upon what direction they could see in the sky. What he's saying is they were drawing this way, but they were looking that way, or if it's low enough, they could look forward and draw on their rock because they're carving the things, the images, the strange plasmas that they witnessed in the ancient sky. So if it was blocking off their view, you won't find petroglyphs of those particular plasmas, in that region or in that area. They have to be able to face the things they saw, unless of course they're just drawing it by memory, but you'll probably have a lot less in that area.
There are a lot of petroglyphs. They exist by the hundreds of millions.
Hundreds of millions.
Well, let me start out by talking about the Earth's aurora.
And it's not just that there's a lot of petroglyphs. It's that there's a lot of petroglyphs that look the exact same as other ones from around the world.
Which is caused by Birkeland currents. Here's a view of the aurora borealis.
Okay, so he mentioned Birkeland currents. Okay, so when you hear the word Birkeland current, I want you to think of a ribbon. Okay, because a Birkeland current looks very much like a ribbon. It's just a plasma tube, okay, or a plasma filament, like a string of plasma. Okay, it can be alone as a string, like a shoestring, or it can be intertwined. Just like whenever you tend to put wires together, they have sex with each other and they get all wrapped up or whatever. That's what Birkeland currents like to do too. So they're just twisties of they're like Twizzlers, of plasma, basically. Right here, I'll show you an example. Birkeland current. Let's check it out, so that way you can have an image in your mind, okay? Let's see. This one's good. Swoop it. All right, here we go. So over here you see like some images from space. Kind of looks like a double helix or something like that, right? These are two next to each other. And behind me, you can see how like they sort of twist together, right? I'll explain these circles and stuff, or I'll let him explain it, and then I'll re-explain it to you here in just a second. Let's continue on with the presentation.
The northern aurora, there's a southern aurora, aurora australis, that don't occur at the same time. And this is seen in ultraviolet light by the Viking satellite. And here's an artist's depiction. I got this from Johns Hopkins Applied Research Laboratory, which sends rockets up to photograph this. And it shows the incoming and outgoing Birkeland currents that originate with any kind of plasma that happens to enter the solar system or with an intense solar burst. You've got this plasma interacting with the Earth's dipole magnetic field, and at the north magnetic pole and south magnetic pole, those are called horns, and there's holes. The magnetic field comes in, and the plasma, the charged particles, the electrons and ions, are able to pour in, and they follow this cone shape and to produce the aurora.
Okay, now check out that cone shape, okay? Remember, he has, and many of the people he's speaking to have a modern cosmology that's presented to them from mainstream academics, okay? They believe in space, they don't believe in a dome or anything like that. So I will show you an example of exactly what he's talking about. This little bottom part of this conical shape right here is the middle of a toroidal field, which is wrapped around and over our world, okay? We live inside of one of these. So this is the entire reason, or one of the reasons, why the dome itself bows inward at the middle. But all that energy comes inward and it creates the auroras, okay? And that field can get disrupted as the magnetic field of our world goes into flux, which we're seeing right now. So whenever you see the auroras going all the way down to Florida and stuff, that means that there's something wrong with this, which is the magnetic field surrounding our world and under our world too. So this goes down into the hollow earth and the underneath side of our world, right? So here at the top, our world is like right in the middle. So look at this like it's a snow globe, okay? half of a world on top, half of a world on bottom, if you will. Okay, so we'd be right here in the middle. That's the Earth. That's the surface. Okay, we would see the auroras circling around right up there at the North Pole. That's how I interpret this particular image and how the auroras are created and stuff like that.
That we see. And this is the kind of aurora that we have today. Many astronomers, physicists have hypothesized, that at one time there was an immense solar outburst from the sun, maybe 100,000 times what it is right now. Tommy Gold was one of the first to suggest this hypothesis, which he printed in actually in a Vatican paper of all places.
Also, real quick shout out to my friend Cheney over at her YouTube channel. She's one of the Secret Society of the Good Guys members, and someone in the chat told me it's her birthday, so happy birthday, Cheney, if you're watching.
And it has been followed up by other people. So many physicists, many astronomers believe that in the past, millennia ago, there was an intense solar outburst. And
now there was an intense solar outburst, and there will be an intense solar outburst once again. The sun is going to destroy the world at the end of this age. Okay, I'll try to remember to explain the mechanics of that and how that happens and the science behind it. But what he's saying is true. Okay, I don't know if it's the age that he thinks it is. Okay, we have one cycle where the sun destroys the earth and another cycle where water destroys the earth. But he's totally correct. However, they believe in their minds that the sun is way out there, millions of miles away, and that it's like throwing up plasma in our direction or whatever. I don't really follow that. I believe that the earth does these things. They're geomagnetic in nature.
So I'm going to pursue that. Now,
I'm not dismissing that the sun doesn't affect things up here on the surface. It most certainly does. But the earth itself affects things much more because the sun is inside of the earth or under the dome.
The first thing I have to do is to teach you plasma physics. Okay, which is, this is the Achilles heel.
Listen, plasma physics sounds complicated, but it's actually not. Okay, so whatever he goes over right now, I'm going to explain to you in real easy terminology.
Whenever one has a column of plasma, a straight column of plasma, it tends to pinch itself.
Okay, I'll explain this to you too. Now, when you see these beams, or as he says, columns of plasma in his presentation, keep in mind they are theorizing, many of them being from the electric universe and even mainstream academics or plasma cosmological views or whatever. They believe this column is coming down from the sky. So you would have to turn their models upside down if indeed it's coming upward as a geoplasma from the earth, okay? So anyways, he says that when you have a column of plasma, which is what happens whenever the earth, hold on, let me back up. The earth creates tons and tons and tons of gases over from age to age. On the inside of the earth right now, gases are being produced. All of the gases that we use now were being collected at one point in the past and were released in what was known in academics as the oxidation event or the Great Oxidation Event. That's where oxygen was introduced into our atmosphere. Didn't come from a comet, didn't come from outer space or any of that. The earth produces oxygen on the inside in many different ways, but one of those ways is the gigantic plants that are growing in the hollow earth right now. Just one of those ways. Bacteria, all kinds of stuff that produces oxygen. That oxygen is being pressurized. It's being kept in by the Earth's magnetic field. As I showed you, that magnetic field runs through the Earth. When that magnetic field disappears during a neutral point of a polarity shift, all that means is that the magnetism that was holding in and preserving and reserving those gases, including oxygen, it lets go. And all those gases, all the oxygen, rushes up through cracks and crevices and volcanoes, okay? And they burst out of the top from the surface. And we see that as pillars and columns of light and beams of light and sky pillars and trees and rods and reeds and sticks and poles and all kinds of things. Okay, so that's what I believe he's talking about. Now, he says that it tends to fold in on itself. It does. Now, what happens is plasma, if you have a beam of it, it creates its own magnetic field. And like I said, that same magnetic field repels plasma. So it's literally repelling itself in these places. That's what he's saying. It's called a Z-pinch. As you can see, it looks like somebody pinched that column right there and right there.
And it is, see, on our side of the Atlantic, it's called a Z-pinch. Here it's called a Z-pinch. And it's one of the most common occurrences in space plasma in that you've got a current flowing in a direction, and a current flowing in a direction tends to produce its own self-magnetic field, which tends to periodically pinch in on the plasma. And this is the basic concept for many fusion concepts. The Z machine at San Diego National Laboratories, for example, or
Hold on.
this is the basic concept for many fusion. Produce its own.
All right, so let me give you a visual, okay? The reason why it's pinching, like I said, is because of the magnetic field. What you don't see is that there's an invisible magnetic donut that is wrapping around right here and right here. It's a toroidal field. Just the same one as I showed you a minute ago that the Earth has. Where is that? Where did that go? Oh, here it is. It's this, okay? So one of these donuts, they're affectionately called donuts, right? They're toruses. You'll have one of these, a ring, that's going to come into play here in a bit too when we talk about the ring and ring symbolism and stuff, right? You have one of these right there, invisibly in this diagram, and one of those right there, invisibly in the diagram. So that magnetic field is squishing the plasma in right there. Does that make sense? There's rings that are holding that plasma column right there and right there.
A self-magnetic field which tends to periodically pinch in on the plasma, and this is the basic concept for many fusion concepts. The Z machine at San Diego National Laboratories, for example, or the earlier machines at Princeton and Los Alamos and so on. So what I'm trying to get across here is one will get these pinches. In the laboratory, we use a number of ways to produce these pinches with megajoules of energies. We'll either use wires to totally strip and vaporize into a plasma Z-pinch, or inject a gas, which will be fully ionized into a plasma column or Z-pinch, or a very thin cylinder. And in all cases, the pinch is pinched. Experimentalists will say, and I've taken pictures of these myself, between 8 and 10. It's usually 9. 9 is the number of these bulges, which we call plasmoids, and they will contain their own circling current inside, which again produces a dipole field. Okay, so that's almost all you need to know about plasma physics. Have I forgotten anything? No, I don't think so.
Excuse me, how big is this column?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, experimentally, we have followed it over 14 orders of magnitude in size. That includes the sun down to centimeters in the laboratory. The a Nobel laureate, Hannes Alfvén, claimed that it scaled 28 orders of magnitude. A Nobel laureate.
Yeah, that's so weird. Okay.
28 orders of magnitude.
Dude. Why isn't this working? What?
A Nobel laureate.
Yeah. Oh.
So weird.
What the fudge?
28 orders of magnitude.
Dude. I moved my mic. Why isn't this working? Wait a minute. I just tapped the mic. And apparently maybe now it's working. What the fudge? Okay, that sucks. Sorry. I moved my mic. Apparently you guys can hear me now. Wait a minute. Oh, Skittles. Now I've got myself on repeat. Okay, I'm going to keep my eyes on the chat. Hopefully you guys can hear. Man, sorry about that. I don't know. My equipment is old. I don't know what to say. Maybe it's just breaking or something. Terribly sorry about that. Terribly sorry. Let's continue on. I'll keep my eyes on the chat. If it sucks, just let me know. Thank you very much.
Out to the Hubble distance. Okay. And it's been our experience. It doesn't matter if you have micro.
All I was saying, okay, was that the beam of plasma that shoots up from the North Pole, right, creates these 8 to 10, oftentimes 9, rings of power. I was relating that to the Southlands and where the humans live in Tolkien's movie The Ring and the series and everything, right? The further away from the North Pole you get, the more human people are. The closer you get, the more mutated they are because of X-rays and radiation and stuff that's close to the North Pole. With the exception of those who actually live at the North Pole on that land that I showed you. They're protected. All right, keep that in mind. Let's continue on.
Amperes of current or 150 gigaamperes of current. Acts the same, 9. Nine's the number. And again, size, it can be astrophysical or millimeters. Okay. Now, there's a couple of other things. I have not finished teaching you plasma physics yet. And
all right, hold on. This is a test. I just want to test my audio, make sure you guys can still hear me. So hopefully.
So now I'm going to try and do so in about 30 seconds. The Nobel laureates Chandrasekhar and Enrico Fermi were
Okay, apparently it is working good. Man, I'm so sorry. I don't know. I'm gonna invest in a new microphone. That's the only thing I can think of. All right, so here are the 9 rings. They're also donuts. You know, you can look at them however you like. And as I was saying earlier, the further away from the North Pole you are, the more of these you're going to actually see. They don't appear right away. Okay, so the only thing that initially appears when that inner Earth pressure is released, hopefully you guys heard that whole discourse on where these geoplasmas come from. And these beams and poles of light, they come from inside of the Earth, and they erupt every other cycle. So the further away you are, the more of these you'll be able to see. The further away from the North Pole, I should say, that you are, because the largest one happens at the North Pole. And then the closer you are to it, the less of them you'll be able to see.
We're the first to solve the what was called the stability condition of a Z-pinch. Here's the 9 plasmoids. Actually, I've only drawn 5 or so here, and very complicated mathematical papers. Other people followed up. I think we were the first to actually graphically present graphical representations of the instabilities in a 1981 Physical Review Letters paper. And this is a sort of morphology, and these are sort of the magnetic field lines and that one gets in a configuration like this. And we're going to look at this in some detail with regards to petroglyphs. As the current increases, as you increase the current, the pinches get larger and larger until these are actually pinched off, and what you get are a stack of toroids. This is an experimental picture of the stack of toroids. This is the conceptual view of what we have, the 9 toroids. And again, this occurs at any scale, or at least from 14 orders of magnitude proven, and 28 orders of magnitude hypothesized. And what is an order of magnitude? Order of magnitude is 1 to 10, 10 to 100, 100 to 1,000, 14 times. Okay. And current pulses, the current flowing through one of these plasma columns tends to be sporadic, like all currents in space. And this causes different parts of the column as the pulse comes through. In our case, we're using 1 nanosecond pulse. It's like what units do you use here? Do you are you metric?
Okay, I'm gonna pause him because he's gonna start trying to lighten things up with some jokes here for a minute. All he's saying is that the plasma figures that you're looking at that were recreated in labs and stuff are tiny. They're very small, okay? He is not comparing this to the larger scale of the Earth when he talks about, showing you these pictures of what they've done in the laboratory. So you can imagine whatever happens in the laboratory, you amplify that and you increase that, magnitude upon magnitude until you have a plasma beam, roughly, 20 miles in width that's shooting up from the center of the world.
Metric, or we use God's units. Light travels 1 king's feet and inches. Okay. So the important thing is different things are going to be lit up whenever one sees a Z-pinch, and again, this can be any size. And the size that I'm leading to is the size of that intense auroral funnel that millennia ago came into Earth. Okay, so the first thing
a millennia ago. That's the Dark Ages, right? Okay, keep that in mind too.
Going to do is look at the so-called eye or owl morphology in that Z-pinch. It looks something like this when you false color it.
All right, so pay attention to this. This is why the Illuminati and ancient gods of old and stuff used the owl face and owl symbolism. They wear owl masks, etc. Why it represents wisdom, why they hearken back to this particular shape, and why it's drawn time and time again, petroglyph after petroglyph or rock art after rock art.
And fill it in, and then compare it to what we call eye mask petroglyphs around the world. This is Easter Island, Newgrange.
Okay, so let me explain. You see these petroglyphs of eyes, specifically what appear to be the eyes of an owl all around the world, right? What it is, remember those donuts? Remember those toroidal shapes that are pinching the plasma that I told you about? They light up on the inside, and when viewed from a side view, you see most of the plasma on one side and the other side, so it creates these sort of circles, okay? And those circles people see as two eyes. That's as simple as that, really. But then you'll also have like little plasma reverbs that come off of it downward and upward. So it kind of looks like the beak and the eyebrows and all that type of stuff.
Where else? This is in California. This is actually a pictogram, very rich in eye mask, as is British Columbia. It's Romania, Europe.
All around the world.
Everywhere you find this classification of petroglyph. Okay, so that's one classification of petroglyph on that rock that had everything. Okay, and if I blow this up, and again, this is...
Okay, hold on. Now, before we move into the next thing that he's going to talk about, which to me, this looks like a fish face. I don't know if you guys can see that. But I want to show you some examples of the owl symbolism that can be found. Now, this is what you can imagine it looked like if people looked northward, which, by the way, is magnetic south in all actuality, until the polarity shift comes again, then north will be put right, and north will be north. Right now, north is actually magnetic south. So if you looked up in the distance, you would see this squatter man, this central pillar, this central beam shoots upwards from the ground. In their model, it's coming down. In mine, it shoots up from Mount Meru. Okay, this bottom part, the legs, is the plasma sheath, which is basically a type of umbrella or a dome type of a shape that covers and goes over the Garden of Eden, and it's spinning around and protecting it. Then you have those, then you have like a toroidal field in the middle, which collects the plasma, and you can see the light from it. And I'll explain why you can see the light as the plasma spins and stuff. And then it separates as it goes high up into the sky, and that's also where the apex dome is, which is that portion of the sky that is drooping downward, as we talked about. We also see this in the movies. So, for example, this is a movie called The Secret of Nim that I also decoded on my Truth in Movies playlist. And as you can see, they have, on this great owl, they have the squatter man, which is the legs that come up and go down. The beam, if you will, that goes up and branches out into auroras and feathers and the phoenix and the thunderbird and stuff, and then the glowing eyes in the middle, right? Sometimes they call it a mirror reflection because the one side looks the same as the other side. This is also where you get the two-faced Janus symbolism from. So some people see two heads that are looking in one direction and another direction, right? But this is why they use the owl symbolism, because the owl's face itself has, like, you know, sort of a hidden coding for this toroidal field at the center of the world. I mean, that owl's face looks like a plasma device called the tokamak, right? Where they spin plasma around super fast. It looks exactly like that. It also looks like that toroidal field I showed you earlier that's spinning inwards and folding in on itself. This is the tokamak type of design. You can see the plasma spinning around in the center right there. And now let's take a look at this next thing that he's showing us. This is pretty interesting too.
This is a computer simulation. Then I start comparing it. This is a pictograph on Thera Island in Greece. The date is unknown.
Okay, so he's comparing a computer simulation of what plasma does and how the magnetic field is affected, right, when they shoot these beams and stuff, to actual pictographs on this side.
Again, I generated this picture circa 1981. This might be 1,800 years old or 2,000 or I don't know. I don't have a date on this, but I think one can possibly see the similarity between the two, and in fact, there's many more. You find these everywhere around the world.
Ah, shoot. All right, now I want to point something else out, which I've also pointed out in a few of my videos that I've done. You see this portion right here in the middle, the fish mouth, if you want to see it. To me, it looks like a fish that's looking forward, like eye, fish mouth or whatever. But anyways, there's a portion of it that creates this sort of, what do you call that shape whenever two circles meet? Oh, Vesica Pisces. So it creates this sort of Vesica Pisces shape right there in the middle. Now I have shown you guys and shared with you guys that the Vesica Pisces shape was related to the body of Jesus, and people saw Jesus hanging in the sky on this great tree of life, Odin's tree, etc. And in his middle was this Vesica Pisces, or this wound, and they drew it during the Dark Ages like this, and they would put crosses right next to it. This is also possibly why we have the Eye of Sauron right above this tower, which is Mount Meru. Okay, so this is how it was depicted many different times. Sometimes they would actually draw the wound of Christ, which is this Vesica Pisces, which is just the plasma formation as they showed you. And they'll put like his hands, and they'll put his head and stuff like that, right? Oh, that's something else. All right, let's continue on with the presentation. I'm really upset that I didn't have volume. I hope I covered whatever I messed up, like when you guys couldn't hear me.
In fact, there's many more. You find these everywhere around the world. Here's, as opposed to the eye mask, these are the so-called face mask petroglyphs, and the ones I've shown here are from Greece, Africa, Australia, Venezuela, British Columbia, Newgrange, giving it all sorts of names. Okay, Oregon, New Mexico, Arizona, and Colombia. Actually, I have many thousands of these, and they are from around the world. This is the mathematical solution of the Chandrasekhar Fermi equations as the pulse comes through, and one can look at the face masks and then compare, what.
Right, so all he's saying is that this formation that people saw in the ancient sky was oftentimes interpreted as a face. So, for example, Cosmism YouTube channel created this simulation of what the plasma may have looked like in antiquity. So if we pause it here, you can see the legs, you can see the face, right? This could be like the owl's face, it could be like the face of an unhappy god, or however you want to interpret it, a god with horns on its head and stuff, or you can see an actual person standing there too, and it moves about. All right, cool, let's continue on. Let's see, did I have the actual? Yeah, let's just continue on.
What somebody might see, and it depends on culture, of course, how they interpreted it. But anyway, it is a very popular petroglyph worldwide.
Are you saying that they're seeing what they feel?
Excuse me?
Are you saying that they're seeing something that feel?
What they're seeing really is electrons in the presence of a magnetic field. Electrons in the presence of a magnetic field. If the electrons are relativistic, produce synchrotron light, and what they were seeing was synchrotron light. And of course, man has been seeing synchrotron light from Crab Nebula and so on for as long as man has been on Earth. So it's always.
Hold on. Now he's put another word out there. Synchrotron. How do you spell that? Hold on, let me see if it's
in there light from Crab Nebula and so on for as long as.
Oh, synchrotron. Yeah, synchrotron. That's what it is. So he's talking about synchrotron light. Let me explain what that is. All right. So imagine a car that's full of water on the inside. All right. You're in a car. You're driving it. Who is that? Angel Montalo. Welcome to the Good Vibe Tribe. High five. Imagine you're driving a car that's full of water. You roll the windows down. The water goes all the way up to the windows. You start going 100 miles an hour down the road, and then you suddenly turn, right? You turn not so sharp that your car flips over, but you turn sharp enough so that all that water inside the car spills out of the windows and goes outward. You look at the car as an atom, okay? And as the atom starts to turn, or as the plasma starts to turn, right, it throws out and emits radiation. It emits light. Okay, so the plasma will turn one way, and then the light from it will be flung outwards. Why is this important? Because this is what happens at the Garden of Eden. As I referenced earlier today, there is a plasma sheath that looks very much like this in the Garden of Eden. Okay, it looks like one of these toroidal fields. It also looks like a sort of a dome. Let me see if I get a picture. So during the Dark Ages, there was a book called the Book of Miracles that was written. I have done a discourse, a video on the Book of Miracles on each picture that we have here. This is from one of my videos. If you want to look it up, it's called 1550 AD, Book of Miracles. This is the video in question. This was one of the images. This is what I believe people saw in the year 1515 when they looked northward towards the Garden of Eden, towards Hyperborea, towards Atlantis. This would be the plasma sheath that goes over and protects the circular island at the North Pole, right here. There is a dome, for lack of better words, over this island of plasma. All right, and it creates the legs of that squatter man. So these would be the legs, right? The beam shoots all the way up, high into the sky, getting smaller as it goes further away, and it comes down, and there's a dome protecting the Garden of Eden. It's a dome of plasma. It's moving and following a circuit all the way around that island. So this is literally, actually, physically the Ouroboros, that the snake that is eating its own tail. And there is light coming off of this, synchrotron light, because it's spinning around, right? Now, the danger here is if you don't live under the protection of this plasma sheath at the North Pole, right? The people, this thing goes way high up above them, okay? So they're protected from harmful radiation that synchrotron light produces, okay? He will tell you, Anthony Peratt, when he does these experiments, although he's doing them on a tiny scale, he's like half a mile away because of the X-rays that are flung out during this experiment. They have to be very far away. No one's even near this thing. It's not like you go to the dentist and you put on a lead vest and you're fine. This is powerful electromagnetic forces that they're playing with. So he has to be like a half a mile to a mile away from the actual experimentation lab in Los Alamos, right? So now let's compare that on a tiny scale to the large scale at the North Pole, where we have this plasma sheath that's spinning around protecting the Garden of Eden. Those who live under the plasma sheath, the inhabitants of the Garden of Eden, are fine because the radiation goes outward. So anyone that lives close to the Garden of Eden, like those people that live in the Garden of Eden, they're gonna benefit the most from these geoplasmas, and I'll try to explain why in a bit. Anybody that lives in the islands just outside of paradise, or outside of the holy city, or just outside of ancient Jerusalem, however, there's many different names that this place was called, okay? All these little tiny phantom islands all the way around, the people that live there, although they're going to benefit from the ambient electrical charge that's amplified in the atmosphere, being that the atmosphere and the electricity in the atmosphere will tickle their skin, it'll recharge and refresh their collagen, their elastin, their cellular structure will be regenerating. They'll live for a very long time. The further south you go, the less people lived, or the less, lengthy lives they had, or whatever, the less cellular regeneration they had. But if you are close to the Garden of Eden in these outlying islands, right? This plasma sheath that wraps around it, that Hershey's Kiss looking deal, is flinging out X-rays at all of the local inhabitants, which mutates them. It won't kill them because of the cellular regeneration, right? But it will mutate the heck out of them as it's screwing with and messing with and degrading their cells that they do have, and then they're adapting very quickly, and they're changing. So this is where you have, during the medieval times and the Dark Ages, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of records. I haven't read all of them, okay, but there are a great number. There's a weighty amount of evidence that there were legendary tribes, entire nations, and islands filled with mutated human beings. And oftentimes they came from the north, or from the far north, right? Not from Hyperborea itself. They're protected. But those who live just outside of it will suffer, and they will mutate. Okay, so you'll have people that grow hair all over their bodies that become wild men and wild women. You'll have people that have hunchbacks and stuff, and they have like what looks like no head, or their head is in their chest. You'll have people whose legs are fused together, and they call them monopods. You'll have people with extra stretchy skin and long ears and all kinds of strange mutations close to, but not within, the Garden of Eden. So keep that in mind. Now, the further away you are, then you'll have less mutations too. So this is just like I said in the Lord of the Rings. The closer you get, you'll have more dwarves and orcs and strange humanoids and stuff, right? But the further out you get into the land of the humans, regular humanoids, right? And then in the middle, you have humanoids that have powers and live for a very long time and regenerate cellular, and they don't mutate or anything. All right, cool. Let's continue on.
And of course, man has been seeing synchrotron light from Crab Nebula and so on for as long as man has been on Earth. So it's always been there. And I'll show you a very bright synchrotron light. So that's what they're looking at. They're not looking at the magnetic field per se. Okay, and this is an experimental view cross section of this conceptual geometry. And these are this has actually got nine pairs. The most intense synchrotron radiation coming out where the plasma is most intense, which is at the edge of these donuts, as shown in this picture here, and then lesser numbers here. And again, this is found worldwide. The ladder and scorpion petroglyphs. Again, they're all over. Ireland has got a lot. Every place has got a lot of these so-called.
Okay, hold on. Let me jump back in. All right, now he's going to be talking about the ladder and scorpion petroglyphs. Now, this is what people would have seen in the ancient sky once it's at its full capacity. Okay, once that beam of plasma has been going for some time, and each one of these steps of Jacob's ladder starts to develop, each one of these little donuts and toroidal fields is appearing around it and causing these Z-pinches and stuff. This is what people would see. You can also see the Squatterman, image still there. This is Atlas holding up the sky and stuff. Let's see. What was I going to talk about? Hold on. Let me see. What was he saying? Oh, yeah. So he's just saying that, in the rock art, oftentimes modern academics will say that this was not seen in the ancient sky. This is how the idiot cavemen saw scorpions. They depicted these as like scorpions. You see how it's like open right there, right? So this is a centipede, or this is a scorpion, or this is, some sort of bug with many legs, or whatever it may be, right? Which is ridiculous, because all they'd have to do is look at one and they know it doesn't look like that, right? So we're once again projecting what we think we know collectively and in general in the modern world, the experiences that we're used to in the modern world, and we're projecting that onto an ancient past whose conditions were much different, vastly different. And so it seems like fantasy to us. We can't conceive of it unless we use our creative mind to balance out our analytical and scientific minds.
Called ladder petroglyphs, and also the so-called scorpion petroglyphs are found all over.
All right, so the ladder. I want to talk about the ladder because it's mentioned in the Bible as Jacob's ladder. Jacob, one of the patriarchs from antiquity in the Bible, a biblical patriarch, according to the story, rested his head upon a rock. When he had fallen asleep, he had a dream of this ladder that stretched up to the heavens, and angels were going up and down on this ladder, right? This is what they are describing, is this right here. And what happens is because we live in a closed system, right? The dome won't stay open forever. This beam is going to send feedback. It's going to keep on going, and you're going to see little plasma balls of electricity going up and down. In Norse mythology, this is represented by a squirrel that runs up and down, passing messages from the gods to the humans on Yggdrasil, which is the tree of life. I'm trying to get an image pulled up that I can share with you guys. Oh, here it is. So this is Jacob's ladder. Okay, so you can find many different versions of Jacob's ladder. This one's from Orthodox Christianity over in Russia, in that general area. But you can see this all the time. Here's Jacob having his dream of the angels, the ladder, right? And then the ladder always goes to the apex dome. And if you look within antiquity and you study and research images and drawings and pictures, especially of the outside world during the Middle Ages and the Dark Ages, they will almost always put this dome I call that the apex dome. That's the top center apex portion of the firmament that bows inward or downward, like I was telling you guys. And there's a depressurization point up there too. All right, cool. Let's continue on. So people saw that in the ancient sky.
And what happens is that these donuts, as the current increases, the donuts, the toroids in the column tend to flatten out. And then they start to warp as the current increases. So these original donuts now have flattened out. This one has remained the same, so it still has these eye-like features that one sees here in the petroglyph. This is from Kayenta on the Navajo Reservation in Arizona. Some start to warp. In fact, they're all going to start to warp at some point as the current increases. And right now, as I recall on this one, we're up to something like 14 megaamperes or so, headed up towards 25 megaamperes, a very large pulse power generator. And at the top, they start forming a flower-like structure where sort of a bulb-like feature is forming, and then the next one is going to close around, and the next one's going to close around, and then in this direction it's going to close around in this direction.
Okay, time out. Let me jump back in. Now, remember, they believe it's coming down from the sky. So if it's actually coming up from the ground as a geoplasma, you have to turn this image upside down. It will still branch out at the top in a similar fashion. But like I said, there's a plasma sheath that is wrapped around the North Pole lands, protecting them. Now, that gets me into something else I would like to share. I'm going to find an image. Oh, well, I might as well share this one since I have this one pulled up. So here's an amazing petroglyph that shows you this sort of configuration, the centipede, etc. You can see the squatter man formations all over this thing, all over the place, right? And then sometimes at the bottom, like right here, hold on, let me zoom in on this. All right, so you see this one in particular, right here? You'll see this, they'll show like mini beams shooting up. That's because there's actually many beams at the North Pole, with the largest beam surpassing them all, going all the way up. All of these smaller beams, let me show you the map. Okay, so this is the North Pole land, all right? There's a plasma volcano, at least one on each of these islands, all right? So they each emit a beam into the air. These are seen as 4 creatures, 4 living creatures, 4 pillars, 4 guardians of antiquity, etc. There's a middle one that's bigger than all of them. It shoots all the way up. There's also an anode and a cathode. There's many elements to this, but let's focus on, at the very least, the 4 plasma volcanoes on each one of these little segments of these islands, okay? When they shoot upwards, these are likely cathode in nature, I'm guessing. They bow inwards towards Mount Meru. They then go down and dip like the McDonald's arches, like an M, and they meet in the center. Right? They create a whole plasma sheath all the way around the Garden of Eden. And I'm going to share with you what that looks like through this visual right here. So this is sideways, so you'll have to adjust it because I don't know how to flip it on here. Or actually, maybe I can flip it. Let me see if I can flip this. Hold on. Let me see if I can flip this around. Possibly. I'm just going to try it one time. Flip 90 degrees clockwise. Oh, check that out. Look at me. All right, cool. So each one of these little copper nodes, electrodes, represents one of the mountains, which I think there's probably 7 at the North Pole. So that's called the Septentrion. The plasma, see this blue stuff? It's going to rise, right? As it rises, that's the energy. That's all the gases that are being released from the inside of the Earth, right? As it rises, they shoot up out of these plasma volcanoes. They're attracted towards Mount Meru, so they fold inwards. As they fold inwards, they actually go down into Mount Meru and they create ball lightning, but on a massive scale. They create a star, basically, okay? And then it's going to show you this. So this little sheath, this is what I'm talking about when I say that's what protects the people who live in Eden. That's the fiery sword that turns every which way. That's the Ouroboros. Give me a thumbs up if you guys can hear me. I just want to make sure. Oh, yeah. Please don't complain about the ads on my channel. That's how I make money and support my family. Just skip them if you don't like them. All right, now watch this. You see that? Whenever they meet in the middle, they form such a tight little kink that the energy is forced as a beam upward and downward. Check this out. So this middle portion will represent Mount Meru. Hold on, let me mute it here. Oh, here we go. All right, cool. So there it goes. Now it's going to play in slow motion. Now we're going to zoom in. This opening, that opening right there represents the opening of Mount Meru itself. So this is the protective barrier that goes all the way around from mountain to mountain, all the way around this central island right here, which is why, well, it's all sideways, but that's why there's mountains all the way around the island there. Okay. Let me get my place. Here we go. All right, now this is what happens when the energy lifts up out of the earth. So it'll create this sort of umbrella, dome type thing. It goes down into Mount Meru where it twines up, it coils up, and it gets so tight that it creates a toroid or a plasma ball. You'll see right here, it's starting to kink up and spin around and figure itself out until it creates this toroidal field. And then the beam shoots up and down. Positive energy goes upward, negative energy goes downward. And that is how things work at the Garden of Eden. Oh, there we go. That works. Sweet. All right, let's continue on.
This is a radiograph. This is radiograph 2. This is not cut off artificially. This is really the way it is. That's really the way it is of the ladder. Somebody complained about the quality of this radiograph. A radiograph is not a photograph. It is taken by means of a flash X-ray radiograph generator, which is very large, maybe of the order of 100 meters long or so. It costs $140,000 US to get a picture like this.
$140,000 per picture of their plasma physics experiments. That's crazy.
Which is done in a fraction of a nanosecond or in picoseconds. And we put many of these, and it has to be, we're looking through different layers of metals, steel and copper, other heavy metals, and it has to be extracted. The picture has to be extracted, and that's why it's so expensive. So it's not a photograph, but it still gives you an idea of what is actually happening inside this chamber. And of course, the X-rays produced are lethal, and so everything is covered in lead, and people are kept a mile away, and so on.
You hear that? The X-rays produced from just the plasma experiments, which is on a small scale, are lethal. They degrade the body at a cellular structure, and people get a sickness. They get so sick because their cells are deteriorating. It's like instant cancer, basically. And yeah, there's going to be parts of the world where people are going to be exposed to this radiation, because if they don't know the safe places, if they don't understand the dangerous areas, to settle down after the apocalypse, like I said, they can get radiation sickness, possibly die, or mutate as well.
And a lot of these are done half a mile downhole the Nevada test site with drifts going out to keep people safe. As the current continues to increase, it produces these mushroom sort of features. Here is an experimental mushroom sort of feature. Here is the same thing, so shown side on and then slightly upward. And then one can find the equivalent in petroglyphs, these same morphologies. And here I've shown a few, but they're, again, I guess at least by the tens of thousands, probably millions, and everywhere. Well, not quite everywhere. At high latitudes, they're often not found. The mirror image or stick figure. Now, this is one of the most popular images that one finds in petroglyphs. And Wall mentioned briefly on this also as being the thunderbolts of the god. This is just one Z-pinch radiograph where one can sort of see this. This is just one, and we have to look at many before we can put together the conceptual image. This is conceptual image, obliquely conceptual image side on, and then these are the dense parts. These are the dense parts of the Z-pinch radiograph, and this, without the dots, is the most common petroglyph one finds around the world. It's called a stick figure or a mirror image. Rarer yet, but quite informative to me are the stick figures that have 2 dots on the side, because that's what we see in the laboratory. And again, this is in light emission, light being bright along these points here, and many cultures here have these. This again is from the conceptual, from the experiment, from the radiograph. Navajo.
Hold on, I would like to jump in again, okay? Hopefully you guys can still hear me. All right, now check this out. You'll notice that it almost looks identical whether it's upside down or right side up, which if they just flip it around, I think they're going to have it, okay? Now, I want to mention for just a moment, like I said, the plasma is shooting up. It's a geoplasma. It's the gases within the Earth being released in mass with high velocity, okay? Those geoplasmas are not dangerous, all right? I'll tell you why. Those geoplasmas are not hot. The plasmas he's talking about are burning hot, okay? Those cosmic plasmas that come down, if this was a beam coming down from the sky, it would be burning hot. Now, there is a life-giving beam that shoots up from the center of the world. Damn, my bad, hold on. Keep opening new tabs. There's a life-giving beam that shoots up from Rupes Nigra, this mountain at the center of the world, and it stays in the sky. But there is a death ray. There is an exact copy. There is a blue beam of energy that appears first, and this is happening into the cycle we're going into. So you should probably pay attention if you're interested in surviving this particular upcoming events. The sun itself is going through a color spectrum shift. The daylight is becoming more and more focused like a laser. The day will come when the sun goes past the northern tropic in the summertime, and it won't come back. It'll keep spiraling closer and closer and closer until it settles directly over this mountain. When that happens, the sunlight will be so focused that it will burn everything in its path, and it will look like there is an anti-Christ or an anti-light that is coming down. It looks just like the geoplasma. These geoplasmas are life-giving. I'll get back to the sun and the apocalypse in just a minute. Let me tell you the good news, okay? The healing light that heals the nations, etc., that erupts from the earth. The reason that light isn't some deadly plasma laser like the sun's light will be for a very short time, okay? This light will be here for a long time. The sunbeam that shoots down and starts destroying the earth and scorching it and baking it, that will be a short time in comparison, okay? So it has to do with pressure. The pressure that is inside of that gigantic opening in this huge plasma volcano, Rupes Nigra, in the middle of the world, this is huge. The plasma volcano itself is 33 miles around, according to the legends and the historic records, okay? 33 miles around. You can imagine how big the caldera is, right? So large. Now, all the gases are erupting up out of it because the inner earth is depressurizing. Less pressure, depressurize, right? In these cave systems, it's just depressurizing. That means there's low pressure. When you lower the pressure so much, the plasma becomes cold, or what's known as a cold plasma, which means you could bathe in it. You could stand inside of Mount Meru in this huge beam of plasma and not be burned to a crisp. It's an ambient temperature. It's like room temperature, maybe a little warmer than room temperature, but still you're not going to burn or anything, right? And you'll get all the benefits: cellular regeneration, telepathy, everything. Okay, this is that would heal your body, your spirit, your mind. You would just be refreshed. Okay, so these geoplasmas are healing by nature, as opposed to the sun. Whenever it becomes focused, right? The hotter the sun gets, the more it's going to start changing in its color spectrum. This is from another video I did called The Destroyer Blue Sun Apocalypse Theory. Okay? And in it, I posit that the sun is getting hotter and hotter and hotter, and therefore the sunlight is going to start scorching the earth, and it will start to burn everything. Okay? And as it gets hotter and hotter and hotter, because the sun is created by the apex dome above, as is the stars and the moon and everything, as the light passes through it. Let me see if I can get to where I change the sun color. So this is where the Hopi prophecy comes into play. All right. There will be a beam of energy, a beam of sunlight that comes downward that looks just like the Christ light, the good earth-giving light, the geoplasmas, right? Except this is false. This is a false healing light. It will burn and destroy. It will make the world desolate. It will cause people to go live underground. Okay, that's how bad it will be during the daytime. All right, people will only come out at nighttime. And as it gets even more and more closer to the North Pole, you will only see a ring around it. And the inside of it will turn black. It will become dark in the middle. And this will be a ring of death. Okay? And it will pretty much hover over the holy city, or that circular city at the North Pole, as this is portrayed as, the blue star that takes off its mask and dances in the plaza in the middle place, right? And this is what happens. It takes off its mask or its face, and you see it's the darkness behind it. Which is also why in South America they had a god named Huitzilopochtli, who was all blue. He was a fire god. He was a sun god, and they depict him with a black makeup all the way around the middle of his face as well. And he held onto blue plasma and stuff. This is the blue sun destroyer that is on the way right now. That's why the sun is changing colors. That's why it's no longer yellow, and that's why it's getting hotter and hotter. What else did I want to share before we continue on? I think that might be it for as far as that. Let's continue on.
Now, I've picked out the double dots because it would be, how do you explain something that looks like this? Well, you can say, well, they weren't very bright and their drawing capacities were very limited. But around the world, they all did it the same way. But if you look for every, between 100 and 500 of the regular stick figure images, you see the one with the double dots. And here I've picked out those from the Navajo Reservation, Armenia, Guyana, an area that we're surveying right now. Here's one I found in New Mexico that is not 5 miles from my house.
Okay, so let me explain in short, right? All across the world, people drew this sort of stick figure image, which is the plasma, the legs that come out as the plasma sheath over the Garden of Eden and Hyperborea, right? The plasma beam that shoots up between those legs, which is why so oftentimes you'll see that there is something hanging down between the legs. It's not a naked person, okay? It's not a person at all. It's not a human at all. It's a beam of light that is shooting upwards from within this plasma sheath, okay? And it will shoot up and it'll branch out at the top. Depending on where you are, you'll see either the two dots on either side, and they can fluctuate. They can appear and disappear at will. Sometimes with no dots, right? Sometimes they'll see the whole toroid or donut shape all the way around, in which case the rock formations, they'll draw what looks like a hula hoop around, the stick figure person or whatever.
One in Spain, here's one in China, this one is in Val Camonica in Italy, United Arab Emirates, another one from Val Camonica, and this is another one I discovered in the southern part of Arizona, near Tucson. But again, you find these by great numbers, but they are rarer. So now what I'm trying to convey to you is that panel that looked totally incoherent or looked like man.
Yeah, I want to share another picture with you too. This one's a really good one. Most people would say this is like an actual guy with like a headdress, like some kind of owl headdress or whatever. That's probably why they made the headdresses. But this is not the quintessential shaman or healer with the headdress on. It's not a human being at all. Okay, so this is the legs of Eden. This is the plasma sheath down below. This is the plasma shooting upward, right? And then you've got arms, which could also be anode and cathode, right? Two witnesses, two beams of light on either side. Then it goes up towards the apex dome. And the apex dome gave off its own light and had plasma striations and plasma filaments that came off of it that, the plasma's still up there. So this is the primordial sun. You see how there's a hole in it at the top right there, right? So this is the apex dome, right? And this is exactly how they'll draw it for the most part in medieval drawings and stuff too. So this is an ancient primordial sun that is not the sun, the point of focus that we have in our sky today spinning around above us. Let me see if I have anything else I wanted to share. Here's some more petroglyphs. He'll explain the goat one here in just a minute. You can also see the tree. It's a tree of life. It's a reed. It's seen as like a vine with, you know, flowers or leaves or whatever on it that goes all the way up to the next world. Here's some different pictures and stuff again. All these little footprint things, those can all be explained too through plasma physics. Let's see. I thought there was something else I might have wanted to share with you guys, but maybe not. Let's continue on with the presentation. If I find it, I'll stop it. I lost the presentation. Where is the presentation? Here it is. Yeah, cool.
Bad people, maybe eating the local cactus or whatever, drew, of course they had the same cactus around the world, which I doubt, because they all drew the same thing around the world. So I'm trying to start to pick out the different pictures that they drew on this rock, and it's completely overdrawn, and I'll show you why it's overdrawn. This is in Africa, a Dogon ceremony, which is carried on to today. The Aboriginal peoples are very, very good, actually, as are we, in preserving what is sacrosanct as being sacrosanct. You do not change the shape of it. If you have a cross, you don't suddenly decide to change the shape of a cross into something else. You keep it the way it's been handed down to you.
Listen, also, some people who know, whether they know consciously or intuitively, they will be drawn to this, in which case they will paint this in a beautiful light. They'll speak positively of this particular formation. Those who have an opposing energetic signature or of an evil soul, okay, will make fun of these shapes. They will diminish them. They will say that they're evil. So whether or not you see this as good or evil will depend upon your actual energetic state of your soul. For example, Mike Judge, Beavis and Butthead, right? He pulls his shirt over his head and he does the whole squatter man. He's like, I am Cornholio, and it's like really made fun of. You know what I mean? That's what
and here you can see in their ceremonies, and this is today, the stick figures. This is called a Siggy headdress. And one can, I think there's probably 9 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 9. Okay. And it's got the, again, this might be visualized as...
So remember, hold on, let me jump in here, okay? He's talking about the Dogon tribe, right? See how it says Dogon up there, or Dogon, right? Dog in the ancient world actually meant fish, okay? So the word dog or dag, right? You see Dagon if you're a Skyrim fan. Dag, dog, dog, doge meant fish. That's what it meant. And like I showed you earlier, depending on your perspective and how you interpret it, you could have seen a giant fish face, or if you're looking at the Vesica Pisces, which literally means like a fish, basically, you're going to see that fish shape, right? Which is why they associate Jesus with the ichthys shape and the fish and all that, the fish god, all that fish stuff, right? So those of the fish, right? The Dogon, that means of the fish, basically. They worship the Nomo. The Nomo were seen as these fish gods. They wore these Kenga headdresses, headpieces, which is the squatter man, the plasma man. They have these poles, these totem poles from world to world. I mean, not world to world. I got Lord of the Rings on my mind. Here, let's look up totem poles. So they have these totem poles around the world, and they will have the Thunderbird at the very top, almost always, right? Why? Because people are recreating, redrawing. They have all these eyes all over them and stuff, right? They're recreating, they're redrawing the things that they actually saw in the sky, in the heavens, when they looked towards the north, and they would see anode, cathode, and Mount Meru in the middle, right? Each one, these are the tent pegs of the world. These are the Vavs of the world. Right, the number 6, Vav, the ancient tent peg figure. They shot up, they branched out, and they created a lot of noise and thunder, so they appropriately would have a Thunderbird, right? And they interpret this however they want to. Notice that there's circles every time on each side, right? The same circles that he was talking about with that plasma figure, and it has the circles under like its armpits or whatever. All right, cool, let's continue on.
eyes up here in the crossing. There was an X crossing here, which, and I don't know if I'm going to show you those figures, but anyway, there's these figures that show up. So they continue to hand down these icons with very little change. He's dancing around, and same sort of dance that's done by the powwow in Albuquerque.
Time out. I'm also thinking of the Nomo. Some people have learned that the Nomo, as a people, you know, their history sort of, one of their stories is that when the white man came to visit Africa and they came upon the Nomo tribe, the Nomo were telling them where they're from and their creation story and stuff, which is like, why was the white man so concerned about their creation story at all? These explorers, right? Dr. Livingston and etc. Why were they concerned about their creation myths at all if this is just some backwards tribe, you know, that's making up stuff and they don't understand the scientific method and they don't understand the Big Bang or whatever? Why are they even asking? Not to be polite, not to be considerate, not just out of curiosity, because there's substance and the nobility of the world who are related to survivors of Hyperborea, they know these stories. And they go around, if you start studying the Age of Exploration, all these places where they went, they asked them about the Garden of Eden. They asked them about the Fountain of Youth. They asked them about their origin stories and stuff. The Nomo looked up at the sky, pointed in the area of the star system Sirius, and they said, we're from there, right? That doesn't mean that there's a star way out there and a planet or whatever, right? And you look through the magic eye, which is the apex dome, which produces all the stars. There's a firmament above us, and most of these cultures knew that, right? They're pointing at the sky because the sky becomes reflective because it's made out of ice, okay? And when you shine a bunch of light or geoplasmas up at it, it reflects the world below, which means they actually came up from within the earth, right? And you can see the places if you look up at the sky, when the sky is illuminated by the age of light and these geoplasmas that act as flashlights that show us the firmament, right? You can look at it. You can see the different countries and everything just by looking up at the sky.
Albuquerque, which is about 2 hours from my house, the All Nations powwow, Indian powwow, and they dance around, usually with eagle's feather, in a certain way, and I'm going to show you why it's done like that. One cannot talk about petroglyphs. Has everybody heard of Kokopelli? No. Has anybody heard of Kokopelli? Okay.
Time out. Kokopelli. Let me show you Kokopelli. I had a strange attraction to Kokopelli when I was younger. I didn't even really like Southwestern, you know, Kachinas or anything Southwestern. That was more my mom's thing. I wasn't really into it that much, but I did like Kokopelli. This right here is Kokopelli. I don't know why, but I vibed with Kokopelli. I liked it. I was drawn to that. I didn't even know what that was. You know what I mean? But I just liked it. There's something about it, right? And he's about to show you that Kokopelli, one of these Kachinas, right, one of these South American gods of old, is a plasma formation in and of itself. Listen to the name, Kaka, Koko, right? Remember, I've taught you guys this many different times what that means. The K sound, Koko, chicken, etc. Right? I want to see in the chat who remembers what that represents. Somebody put it in the chat, okay? Kaka, pole, pel. It's the same thing, okay? Let's look it up. Just so you know, I'm not making this crap up. It's not crap, but I'm just, you know, I'm being chill with you guys. Pel. Let's look up pel first. Kokopelli. All right. Boom, boom, boom. Not what I'm looking for. Let's look up, let's just look up pole, because that's what it means. All right, pole. P-O-L-E. Boom. All right, pole, pole, pole. Boom. Is there a pel in here? Oh, it is. Pele. So Pele, like if you're familiar with Hawaiian myths, same concept, right? Pele, pole, as in North Pole. Is it an actual physical pole that rises up as a beam of plasma from Mount Meru? That's why it's called the North Pole, right? It's not just a magnetic term or whatever. It's actual pole every other cycle that rises up in the form of energy. Pole from pole land, the land near the pole, right? The actual pole. Pele, or kokopele, right? Pele, a pole. That's what it means, basically. Let me just click on Pele, see what that says. To fill. Okay, well, whatever. It means pole, all right? And as you can see right here, the word pole, right? As a noun. Bam. Pole. Oh, here's the other one. The axis, as in the pole. This is going to get into some other stuff as far as spinning around, like the axis mundi, right? And, you know, I told you guys how like the plasma sheath around the North Pole is spinning and stuff. But that's what it is. Kaka pole. See the word pole right here that says stake, staff, stake, pole, post. From the word pag, like a peg, right? A pole, a peg, the tent peg, right? To fasten the earth to the sky. Pag is pagan, the people from the pole. They were pagans, right? There's mountain ranges that go all the way around that central island, which is why these people were known as being from the mountain ranges, or specifically within ancient mythology, the Rephaim mountain range, which today people speculate is like in Africa. I don't think so. I think that was renamed. But anyways, this whole mountain range around that valley is the Rephaim mountain range. Why? Because that's where the healers were, which is these plasma volcanoes, like I said, on each one that shoots up and creates these basalt column mountains, which is a maze of gigantic stone pillars all the way around the outside, or the walls of Eden. I got off track, so let's jump back to the presentation.
Okay. Walls are Coca-Cola.
Pelli, right? Anybody in the chat get Coco Pelli? What's the Coco stand for? Anybody? I don't see that anybody got it. No. Nobody got it. Oh, that's sad. That makes me sad. All right, so the K sound in Coco Pelli, the K is an outdoor boundary. It's an outdoor marker. Two of them together create the anode and cathode poles or beams of light that are on either side of this central island that I keep showing to you guys, right? All right, so there's two poles outside of this island. There's four on the island itself at least. But there's two, an anode and a cathode, at least, outside of the island. They shoot up as their own beams of light, their own pillars. These are outdoor boundary markers known as the Pillars of Hercules. The Pillars, Poles of Hercules, okay? And it's K-K. That's how you would say that in the ancient language. Those outdoor boundary, the Pillars of Hercules, K-K, right? Or Kaka or Coco, which Coco probably comes from that land. Chicken, right? Cha-cha, all these crazy cuckoo or whatever, right? Stuff like that. That's what that means. So Coca-Pole, Kaka-Pel, is the pole in the middle with the anode and cathode beams. It's telling you where this god, where this Kachina was from, where he was located. He was named after where he was from, which many animals are too, actually. Let's continue on.
Okay, Coco Pelli is a very popular folk figure in places like New Mexico, Arizona, the southwestern United States, also in places like Afghanistan and other places around the world. He's generally considered a mischievous, Africa, a mischievous sort of figure playing a flute. And it may be a flute, it may be something else. It depends on how the culture interpreted what they saw in the synchrotron light in the very bright aurora coming.
Okay, so Coco Pelli was seen as being this mischievous creature, okay? He was a shapeshifter, just like Loki, which means luck, basically, right? This lucky god or whatever could be good, could be bad. You don't know. That's how Loki's actually portrayed in the Marvel movies and stuff, too. It's the beam of light. It's the central column. It's a central pillar and beam of light. It's represented by a wolf or a coyote sometimes because Mount Meru is split at the top and it looks like the head of a dog that's howling up at the apex dome, which is the moon. So hopefully not too much of that went over you guys' heads, and you could, let some of it marinate. Anyways, what's up with the shape? He's going to show us right now.
Coming into the sky.
Why is he like hunching over? That's what I want to say.
Plasma images of the flute playing figure, and this.
So what he's pointing to right here are plasma experiments done in the lab, where the plasma itself creates what looks like a question mark. You see that? I can't zoom in onto YouTube, but you can see it's a question mark, right? Which is the whole, could be good, could be bad. You know, it's a mystery god. It's a tricky god or whatever, right? And there's good reasons for that. But where was I going with that? It's like that's why the Riddler has like the question mark and the color green, the auroras and stuff. Kokopelli. All right. Where were we going with that? Oh, I want to show you the cathode ray. So in a real life example, okay, this is easy to emulate. So if we take the example of a cathode ray, so on one side we have a cathode, on the other side we have an anode. Typically, not always, the energy comes from the cathode, goes towards the anode. Depending on the cellular structure or the type of battery that you're using, you could say, okay, it can flip. The energy can go from the anode to the cathode. It just depends, okay? But using this particular one, we can see that the energy itself that shoots outward, it can bow downwards towards the positive energy, as it will here, right here. Did you see that, how it does that? That, if you turn this sideways and you have it coming, shooting up out of the earth, this is Kokopelli, okay? That beam of plasma, blue beam of plasma, will shoot up from Mount Meru at the center of the world, out of Rupus Nigra, and it will go straight up, but depending on the fluid up there, which is atmosphere, and depending on the magnetic field and how it's shifting and changing, and depending upon the other plasmas that are coming out of the dome itself, because they will affect the other plasma, the Mount Meru plasma, this can bend. It can be like those incredible inflating arm flailing tube guys or whatever you call them, right? That's all I'm trying to say about that.
This is from the American Southwest here.
Yes. Somebody in the chat said, is it kind of like saying maypole, just another dialect? Well, I'm not, Lucy Rose Up. I'm not sure what you're asking, but this is directly related to the maypole celebration, okay? Hold on, let me show you the maypole. Maypole. May being the time around when Pentecost happens, April, May. Easter, all that stuff, right? So here's the maypole. So people will get these ribbons, which represent plasma filaments, and they will dance around the maypole. They start off like this, right? Like, why do we even do this? Why does anybody do this, right? So people are holding on to the end of these ribbons. They'll start running around the maypole, which the central pillar represents the pillar of geoplasmas that erupts from Mount Meru. They're all going to run around it. And what this represents to me is the plasma sheath that is over the Garden of Eden. This is supposed to represent a peaceful type of event. These are supposed to be the inhabitants. They're celebrating their homeland. They forgot where they're from. They don't understand. They just have like a longing to go back home. So they create these traditions and stuff where they dance around the maypole. All right. That's a good one. That's a good catch.
Different styles, again playing the flute. Southwest, this is Africa, playing the flute. Colombia, well, that might be a flute, I don't know. This again, this is from the Southwest because of the duck head, which often appears. This is in Russia. Siberia is by their culture. Okay, moving right on because I've got to move right on. A very popular petroglyph that one finds is that of a bighorn sheep in the Southwest. Well, not just in the Southwest, American Southwest.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to cut to the chase because honestly, it's difficult for me. Like, I just want to sum up what he's trying to say for you guys. Okay, I probably should have done that from the beginning. Now he's going to show you the glyphs of the goat horns that are found all over the place. They're shown as the double arches, like the McDonald's arches. They're shown as Aries, right? So this is the sign for Aries. And he's going to tell you that whenever the auroras are amplified and they start spreading across the world, they start creating this sort of ribbons in the sky. You will see this. Let me pull this up. I'm just going to do this on the fly, but I want to show you an example. I'm going to type in medieval, dark ages. Let's type in hand of God and see what comes up. I bet you we can find that same ribbon real quick. There it is. Boom. One of the first images. Check this out. So you'll see this. I mean, like, I haven't even seen this particular image before. This represents anode, cathode, and Mount Meru. There's the hand of God. There's an opening at the top where the apex dome is. And there's these frilly clouds or ribbons types of stuff. It's plasma up there in the heavens. Let's find another one. I'll find you another example real quick. Check this out. There's lots of different pictures during the Dark Ages and medieval times of a hand reaching down out of the sky. And oftentimes it will have these ripply clouds all the way around it. You see that one? Check this out. You see that? The same rippling up and down M type of clouds, or W, however you want to look at it. Hold on, let me see if I can find a better one actually. I mean, there's lots of different versions to choose from. Let's see. I have a whole collection of them, but here's like a guy praying to it. It's like off at an angle here. Let me show you this. All right, so check this out. Here's the hand of God. Here's the frilly clouds, which is around the apex dome, which creates the stars, which is why the stars are here in this dome and not out here in the actual sky. Right? The sky is golden because it was a golden age. Let's see. Anything else? Oh, here's a really good one. This is a really good one. This is more typical. This is way more typical of what you can find up in the upper atmosphere. Right? So here's God, peace, what's up, bro? Sticking his arm out, and this guy's like, do you see that? Right? And you see the frillies? See the frillies there? That's exactly what he's showing you on this presentation. Check it out.
West, but in many different places. I've taken these from California, and but you find them in other parts of the world too. And what happens when you have this intense aurora coming in, interacting with the atmosphere? A series of instabilities develop that are not Zeepian instabilities, but instabilities associated with the shock of the atmosphere, and it produces.
The shock of the atmosphere. You thought I was muted, huh? The shock of the atmosphere. Why would the atmosphere be shocked? Not just because of beams from outer space, but because atmospheric depressurization, right, is going to shock the atmosphere as well. Let's continue on.
These sort of figures. And prehistoric man, I mean, you can easily imagine, I mean, what can you relate this to? Well, you can relate this to a
Hold on. What I would like to do, I don't know if I can do, I can't put them both up there, but just to remember, okay, right? Here, let's see if we have other examples, because that example's like off to the side. Where's a really good one? Where's the one where Jesus gets sucked up to the sky? That's a really good one. This one's okay. See the frillies there? Let's see. Where can we find these? Oh, I know. Let me try the Jesus Ascension. All right, hold on. We're just doing this on the fly, okay? Let's do Ascension Jesus. Boom. Let's see. Where's my favorite one? It's got to be here somewhere. Ah, here we go. Boom. Check that out. Oh, what is this? Hold up, I gotta visit Facebook for some reason. Go to feed, I guess? Oh, it's not available. Oh, that's stupid. Well, anyways, let's search it. I'm sure I can find it. There we go. Well, pow. Alright, cool. Let's open that up. Now, let's compare. I'm gonna put this right next to the video. I'm sure you guys can hear me, right? I don't know how to move the tab. There we go. All right, boom. So let me jump in. All right, so you see the frillies? You see that? All that up there? That's the apex dome on the other side. This is the light of the world, Jesus, which is an afterglow of that plasma beam after it's already retracted, okay? And the afterglow will get sucked up during atmospheric depressurization when there's a hole in the apex dome itself. Look at the frillies, okay? You'll also see the Humpty Dumpty wears that same type of frilly scarf around his neck oftentimes, okay? But watch the frillies right here, and then watch what he's showing you about the plasma formations that were recreated in the lab right here. See the same type of exact thing?
To a bighorn sheep, which is what they did. They also draw them in a way, they knew perfectly well the anatomy of what a bighorn sheep and what it looked like because they had them hanging in camp. That was one of their prime sources of food. They knew very well. That's not the way they drew them. They drew them like the plasma instabilities. Very close, but that's not quite the way they drew them. This is a country, the kind of country that we work with in logging petroglyphs. This is again an instability that develops once the donut has flattened out. It flattens out in waves, and then it starts curling in. Petroglyphs are oriented around the world. They are oriented, and they are oriented magnetic. This is magnetic south needle. It's oriented magnetic south. This magnetic south is right behind this edge, and I call it a knife edge or a blinder because the center of the plasma column was coming in magnetic south right into the south magnetic full, synchrotron radiation, very bright, and almost every petroglyph has got a blinder of some sort in front of it, something that shields out the center so you can see what's happening on the outside where the instabilities are, and the instabilities are on the outside. So at this location, I'm actually back in a cave, and the petroglyphs are back in the cave here. This is looking south, and it's got this. This is a typical feature. Here, the same thing. Magnetic south is this way. It not only has a mountain off to the distance, about 90 miles.
Let me sum up. Can you guys hear me? Yes. All right, let me sum up. He says that these things face magnetic south. Well, let's do a little research. Where is magnetic south? Pam. I don't understand that. Let's see here. Magnetic south. Well, the internet's retarded. Hold on. Is the North Pole actually south? Magnetic south. Magnetic. I know it is. I'm just doing this for your benefit. South. Bam. All right, boom. I typed into Google, is the North Pole actually magnetic south? Yes. The Earth's geographic North Pole is a magnetic south pole. So what he's saying over here in the video is all these sites where they find these petroglyphs, they have a clear line of sight to the north where they could watch all of these spectacles unfold, right? All right, that's all I wanted to say.
Miles or how many kilometers
So
that
you're
is.
not going to find a lot of these types of petroglyphs in like canyons and stuff where like there's just walls on either side. They can't see what was in the sky. When you can't see the plasma formations in the sky, you're not going to be drawing them much unless you're drawing them from memory or something.
But it has this knife edge, and this whole area here is filled with petroglyphs. As soon as you go around the bend, no petroglyphs, same rocks, no petroglyphs whatsoever. And they are oriented magnetic south. So we know which direction the intense aurora came in. This is an escarpment of some 7,500 petroglyphs, which I surveyed in, this is below Santa Fe, New Mexico. And see, this is a marker line that I use with my GPS unit as a calibrator on the road that exists. And the different colors are different sweeps that I made through this area. This is an escarpment here about 100 feet high or so. And what is important, magnetic south is here. And you find petroglyphs whenever there was a view of towards magnetic south, but kind of
The North Pole.
shielded. Here's magnetic south and kind of shielded by the escarpment. And where it turns, now these rocks are exactly the same as these rocks, exactly the same as these rocks. You found a few concentrics and a few spirals, which are the highest part of the configuration here, but this is absolutely void of petroglyphs, where these are overdrawn. They may be overdrawn 3 times down here. And now...
Okay, let me summarize, okay? All he's saying is the further away you are from the central pole, the axis mundi, the more of it you can see. And unless you're extremely far away, like in Australia, then your natural line of sight and how perspective works, the lower things would, like the legs and stuff, would probably be missing because you're only going to see the top portions.
A mountain range gets in the way down here, and it stops.
And obviously, if something's blocking your view of this wonderful apparition that's happening in the north, in the northern skies, then you're less likely to have those petroglyphs and people drawing what they saw in the sky.
So you lose that magnetic south. This is the petrified forest in Arizona. This is a topograph with the.
Now, speaking of the petrified forest in Arizona, I have a video. It's one of my on-location videos, so it's for members only. So if you're a channel member of my YouTube channel, you can go watch that. It's a full documentary that I did myself in the Ancient Aliens style, where I take you to the petrified forest, to Meteor Crater, and to the Grand Canyon.
The logging points of petroglyphs on it, and this is a three-dimensional view.
I should also mention that cosmic plasma, the hot one, right? Not the geoplasmas, but the hot plasmas that come down, they petrify. Okay? They petrify biological life forms. Trees are one example. They can petrify people, animals, all kinds of stuff.
And the marks are, of course, petroglyph magnetic south. This is going off in this direction. I think it's about 11 degrees at this latitude and location. And then they stop. There are a few up here, few here. And what happens is there's a mountain range to the south that blocks out the view. And in fact, these will trace, they will actually silhouette the mountain off to the south. But this mountain range then blocks it off, and even though these rocks are just as good as here, there are no petroglyphs because of that blockage. This is a petroglyph site in Donner Pass, Sierra Nevada, California. Great historical interest to those who study the high Sierras.
Okay, so I just want to let you guys know what I'm doing here in real time. I'm going to go check on my son. My son is downstairs playing Minecraft on his computer. I'm going to go check on him, stir up our dinner, use the bathroom. I'm going to continue to allow Mr. Peratt to give his presentation. I'm going to be listening to it on my phone as I go. So when I come back, if I feel like I need to comment on anything, I will. But I'll be back in maybe 5 minutes or so. But I'm going to continue to play the presentation.
And the petroglyphs are located so that it has a, this is the blue line is magnetic south. And even those, when you're there, it's very hard to tell in the field that there is a preference whatsoever because the mountains are so high. They're 14,000 feet. Divide by pi and you'll get meters, I guess. Standing here and looking at the petroglyphs, you really cannot tell that there's a gap until you put it down on a three-dimensional aerial or a three-dimensional topograph, time after time. That's magnetic south. Here's the same thing. Here's a site in southern Arizona. This is near Tucson. The Cocarachi, famous Cocarachi Axis Mundi petroglyph, which is again the flattened donuts coming around like this, a very beautiful figure. These are the ones I've logged, and at the time I was logging, there was this big mountain here. Couldn't tell. And then I found some over on a rock over here. But when I put it down on a 3D aerial, it is immediately apparent this is magnetic south. That again, they're looking magnetic south. And of course, we have, I don't know, 300 or 400 of these like this right now. Actually, more data. But this is a very difficult site to get to. These, it's an aerial map, but it's contoured at 20 feet contours. So it looks nice and smooth. Well, I went in with Professor Marvin Rowe, who is, I believe, probably the world's expert on dating pictographs. And we made our way in there. It took us all day to get out. Very, very rough country. But if you move a foot in some places, the difference is 400 feet down. So, and again, there's a channel down here. Which we could see at the site. This is a 10-kilometer long canyon. This is the Rio Grande River. This is in New Mexico. This is an area that I've explored pretty extensively. These petroglyphs that go along here silhouette the mountains in front, directly magnetic south to them. And there's about three. One little place up here in this canyon that has a magnetic south view, you find some petroglyphs. Let me show you. This is very precipitous. That's what it looks like, really. Waterfall here, and I'm going to show you where the petroglyphs are in a minute. But one has to come down on the side here and snake around and come down, and it's very, very difficult, very dangerous country to traverse. This is looking down towards the Rio Grande. And it turns out the petroglyphs are right in here where it can look off magnetic south. With no interruption by mountains here or mountains over here. It's got a very narrow magnetic south field of view. Probably see part of the trail going down here. That's the Rio Grande, which means big river. It's about that wide. Okay. This is a map of the alpine rock art sites. The sites that I have most recently logged include it's supposedly the largest petroglyph site in Europe, and this is at the Camonica Valley in Italy. Bergamo's over here, Milano's somewhere here.
Okay, I'm back. Thank you so much. The one thing I did want to comment on is he was talking about how he visited the Rio Grande in New Mexico. I have a video on my Shorts tab of me in the Rio Grande Canyon in New Mexico. Unfortunately, I didn't see any petroglyphs because I wasn't there to look at petroglyphs or anything, but I do have a video explaining how that canyon is not made by a river, okay? No canyon. None of those huge canyons of the world, none of them are made by rivers, okay? I know a lot of people want to believe that. That's not my view, okay? It stands to reason for me personally that those were created, they look like electrical discharge from above when you're flying in a plane, but very large ones like the Grand Canyon and stuff could very well feasibly be where the earth grew. Okay, because the earth is a living organism and it grows and it will stretch, especially every other cycle when it goes through these depressurization events. Okay, just like you grow and your skin will stretch and stuff like that, the earth does too. So it's an opening. And because it's an opening in the earth, these tend to be places of power where those blue beams will shoot up and out. Oftentimes you'll even see like burnt rocks and stuff, and there's volcanoes in the area and stuff like that. But yeah, let's continue on.
And as I said, there's about 300,000 there, and of course we didn't individually log them all, but we logged the rocks that they're on, and then put them on maps. Now, what surprised me was when I was at Val Camonica, it appeared again the mountains on either side went up 10,000 feet, and you have this very narrow valley as you're looking down towards the Mediterranean. And it looked to me like they were looking directly magnetic south. But when I put this on a 3D contour, they're doing the same thing that they do in Arizona, New Mexico, or elsewhere, is they're tending to put them where they have some sort of blinder, some sort of shield. These are actually down a little bit, so the rock has got all kinds of inscriptions, but there's a little bit of a blind. Same thing here. They're following the contours to magnetic south. Look magnetic south. I've got a great deal of data. There's a lot of petroglyphs there on the river, so they put latitudes and longitudes on them. Great deal of data, valuable data for me that probably has been overlooked by everybody else, or not considered valuable by anybody else, I should say. Because French Guiana, Suriname, Guyana, part of Venezuela, I've been down part of this, but I have not been in here. But and what have I left out? Well, anyway, this is in Suriname. This is a boulder, and it's a big boulder, and it's filled with petroglyphs, and it has a nice view right down this channel, this natural channel in the land, magnetic south. And you have to go quite a ways before you find more petroglyphs. Here's another place. Again, this is a rock out, and it's out in the river, and it has a field of view that is magnetic south.
Now, I also want to point this out. Because I really focused on the North Pole and the land at the North Pole, as I have mentioned many different times. That circular land has the mountain at the very middle of it, Rupus Nigra, which is right here. This is where the largest beam of light will be seen. However, anywhere on Earth where there is an opening, a cave, or a volcano, people will see smaller versions of everything that we're describing that it happens here. This is the place where it happens the most. This is the most powerful of all of the radiation and all of the light sources and winds and all the stuff that's created by these events. There are small scale versions all around the world, okay? So there will be, to use a biblical term, there will be, people will say that there's Christs in many different places. Here he is, or there he is, or there's the beam of energy or whatever. That's the true one. That's the main one. That's the quintessential one. That's the largest one and the most powerful one. All right, let's continue on. Oops, my bad, not that one.
Now, many petroglyphs have a total field of view. You can look in all directions, but if the magnetic south is not the magnetic south view, close to Borneo, I think. And I really have to thank my Australian friends who load up my emails by sending me tons of data. And right now, the area in South Australia, I'm getting a lot of data from sites in here, up here in the Kimberleys, the Windjana Gorge. I'm getting data, and somehow somewhere here, and taking logging information and contributing it. All very valuable data. This is Akaru Rock, and again, we have the same thing. Petroglyphs over here. Now there is an opening to the east, and we have some question: are they looking partially east? And it depends on the inclination that you look up the column, what instability you see. And so we're logging that data. But again, we have the magnetic. Same thing. These are caves.
I'm just going to skip. I'm going to skip through a little bit here so we can speed this up a bit.
Something like this. And we're trying to get data at Tasmania, for example. This is at something like 33 degrees or so, and Tasmania gets down to 40 degrees, and we'd like to get some petroglyphs there, as well as altitudes, as well as determine what the petroglyph galley, particularly fine example of the petroglyphs here, and again only having, there's no view, there's no north view, there's no east view, there's no west view, there's only a magnetic south view here. Okay. I don't know if I mentioned this. I probably didn't mention this. When you have a thin plasma column, the tendency for the thin plasma column is to filament into 56 individual currents. We call them 56 Birkeland currents. And again, the number is 56, regardless of the current or the size. And when you look at, now when you watch the time evolution of the once the cylinder has filamented up, and I'll show some pictures of that. It goes through some interesting motions. Here's two adjacent ones. They come together. Most often they start to spiral around each other before coming together. This one is undergoing some rotation itself. And so we start with, I think I have 20 or so, not 56 here. But it goes something like that. And they get fatter each time because they're forming vortices, so they're kind of square shaped, or many people's liken these to animals. So when you look at many replications or petroglyphs or pictographs from antiquity, these will be drawn as animals because you can sort of see a tail or something you can imagine like that. And it goes down in number until you get to 4, and it ends at 4. So the 56 finally end at 4.
Okay, so time out. I do want to talk about this too. So he's talking about how they see these 56 dots or lights or whatever around these plasma formations or whatever. Man, how do I explain this? So I want to pull up something here. Let's do petroglyph. Let's do Pac-Man. I hope it comes up. Let's do dots. Circles. I don't know. Actual Pac-Man came up. Damn it. That sucks. All right, that's fine. All this stuff is based off of this stuff. All right, let's see what we got here. I'm looking for a particular petroglyph. I'm also just kind of studying with you guys on the fly. Hope that's cool. But there is one that has a head, a body that has a head, which with like a huge circle and all these little dots around it, just like you kind of see right there. Oh, there it is right there. So this one right here. All right, so this one has what he's talking about. Okay, these little 56 lights. Okay, let's open this up because I want to give you my take on this. Okay, all right, sweet. So this central figure represents the Squatter Man, represents the plasma beam at Mount Meru, the largest one that shoots upwards. This head, the head is always going to be the apex dome. It's always going to be the portion of the firmament that hangs downward. That the apex dome is not a solid dome. It's rippled. It's stepped like a pyramid. Okay, which is why when people look up and they see the reflection of Hyperborea, this land below it, right? This is Atlantis. Although traditionally Atlantis has rings of water, right? It's like 3 rings. That's not the case though. The case is it's a perspective that's being warped and distorted by the apex dome, which is shaped like a step. So you could say it's sort of like a step pyramid. Okay, it's not a solid dome, so it's going to distort on every side the angle of what it's reflecting below. Some of these reflect the ocean. Okay, some of these reflect the Arctic Ocean, basically, and some will reflect the land below it, which is Hyperborea. So you're going to get what appears to be, if you look up to try to figure out what's down below, Atlantis. You're going to look up, you're going to see the rings of Atlantis or whatever. Now, what it really is, let me just take, hold on, let me move. I need access to this map because I'm always referencing it. All right, cool. So what it really is, it's this image that is being reflected off of the apex dome at different angles. So you're going to see these rings of water inside of it. And then you'll actually see at the center the actual only ring of water that exists, which is the one around Mount Meru, which is freshwater. But like I said, there's different plasma volcanoes at the North Pole. There's different openings. There's many different volcanoes at the North Pole in the Arctic region, right? If this mountain in the middle, biblically, let's speak biblically, okay, in the book of Revelation, which I have decoded on my channel, if this mountain represents the throne of God, as I believe it does, okay, when the throne of God is mentioned, I believe it's talking about this, the seat of God, where the energy, the blue beam, touches the actual earth, okay? This is the throne, this is the seat. This is the temple. This is many different things, okay? But let's focus on the throne of God, all right? In the book of Revelation, the throne of God is surrounded by 24 elders who have their own thrones. A throne is essentially a mountain, okay? I don't have time to explain everything, I'm sorry. But there's mountains, okay? If you have 24 mountains that go around this island, and each one of them is shooting a beam up at the sky, and the sky is reflective, then what are you going to see? You're going to look up at the sky and you're just going to see dots of light, just like this. If you have 24 and each one of those beams splits into two, as we've seen, or if it splits its wings or whatever, right? Then you're going to double that number. So what's 24 elders, 24 beams of light, 24 mountains, split into two? That's 48. Well, that's not quite his number. What was his number? 56?
Which is important. Now
Yes, so he said 56. All right, so if we have 24 elders surrounding the throne of God, each one splits into two. That gives us 48, right? We need more to get to 56. So 48, each one's worth 2, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56. So theoretically, you could add to the 24 elders the 4 living creatures, which are 4 plasma volcanoes, one on each one of these little quadrants here, and you get 56 when they're split in half and you look at the reflection on the apex dome above. That's pretty deep. I'm really sorry if that went over your head. But, you know, maybe one day you'll be able to get that reference book out of the library of your mind and come back and understand what I'm trying to explain. All right, anyways, let's continue on with the video.
We've looked at this both with supercomputer simulations to determine that indeed 56 is the number, and 56 is the number. As you make the cylinder thinner and thinner, the number of filaments goes up to 56, where each one has got an individual pinching magnetic field. If you go beyond that, the magnetic fields kind of come together, and you don't get 128 or so. You get 56. This is a 17 kiloampere beam. Intense relativistic charged particle beam that has, this is a steel witness plate that is some meters away from the device itself. The periodicity of, and I've outlined these marks so that you can see on the periodicity, again, is 56. This is work that has all been published. That's just plasma physics. Okay, so there are 56 crystalline filaments in our intense aurora that happened perhaps 4 millennia ago. So, okay, so now we start searching for concentrics that have either 56 rays or dots. Here's one.
When he says concentrics, he's talking about the Atlantis figure that is seen and reflected on the apex dome. Okay, it's reflecting the land of Hyperborea directly below it at different angles. So you're going to see a ring of water, a ring of land, a ring of water, a ring of land, right? And when you look up at the apex dome, it emanates plasma. which, like I said, is primordial sun. So oftentimes you're going to see spirals or concentric rings or whatever with what appear to be sun rays coming out of them, but it is not the point of focus that we call the sun today. It's something entirely different.
On the Navajo Reservation in Arizona in the United States. We start going around the world. Next one, we go to Australia. This is near Derby, Australia. This is in the Wingina Gorge. And again, it has 56 rays coming out. On top of this is another a larger 56 rayed petroglyph, but it has blobs or dots on the end. And one finds that number all over. Now here is Derby, Australia. Here is Winslow, Arizona. And you take the two, and if you tilt the Australian one by about 45.3 degrees, you can overlay it. It's very hard to overlay it. It's very hard to overlay it to distinguish one from the other because they are so precise. In fact, to do so, I had to emboss the Arizona one and then put down the Australian one in black, just to differentiate the two. They're so exact, yet they're that far apart, which is typical. These occur by the hundreds around the world. There's many more than that. 56 filament dot concentrics. Oh, okay. So we've got a huge data bank on a supercomputer. And the idea then is to go through and find every 56 point symmetric concentric, that exists if we can. And this one is what's called the 4 o'clock rapids, 56 concentric. Actually, it's less than that because these have started to undergo rotation. They have started to, as Birkeland filaments, they have started to rotate around each other. You can see the rays coming out there. And so on the computer, what we will do is generate blind rings. That is, I will draw a ring through each of the major features on this Columbia River petroglyph, and now I'm going to go through and ask the computer to compare this to all sorts of concentrics that I have, maybe brass plates and maybe other items from antiquity. It can be, well, we collect items from antiquity and include that also. I'm trying to think what else we include. We include a great many things, not just petroglyphs. And so that's what we're trying to match, or 56, 17 miles away from the blind ring one. So our differences in this, they both like 56 for some reason. The next one is in Arizona. This is again on the Navajo Nation, and one sees the 56 rays coming out. It's from Washington State. This is a pictograph. Again, it matches the feature. It has less than 56, but Bronze Shield, 3rd millennium, Middle East. Again, I picked this one up. This is a 56 ray from Kazakhstan. It's 56 rays. It doesn't have the inner concentric ring.
See how it looks like the moon? I mean, that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing it kind of looks like the moon. That's because that's what the apex dome is. The apex dome is the actual physical moon whose image is projected into our sky that we call the moon, which is a luminary.
Rings. Okay, somebody locked the doors because at this point people are going to start escaping, but this is a 56 ray circle axis mundi from China, and these are actually drawn as paintbrushes. You know, the axis mundi here.
When he says axis mundi, he's talking about the blue beam of ionized oxygen and nitrogen that shoot up from the center of the world. That is the axis of the world that everything else revolves around.
A tree coming up in the center. But anyway.
And it looks like a tree to many people, okay? Leaves coming off of it, branches, ladders, spreading its top like a huge canopy or a bird of some kind.
56 are there. This one I've forgotten where it is, but again it has a 56 rays.
These are not the sun. I just want to reiterate to you, these are not, we do ourselves a disservice, okay? We stumble when we take the modern world and we project what we call normal in the modern world onto the ancient past. The conditions were altogether different back then. So modern, scholars will go, oh, that's obviously the sun. That's how kids draw the sun these days or whatever. Not with spirals inside of it, not with concentric rings or anything. That's something else.
That one again is in Arizona. It's the same thing. Pick that one up. This is unfair. I picked the penumbra of a dense plasma focus, which also has 56, but it's a plasma, so we would expect it.
Now, dense plasma focus is the same thing I showed you. That's the Honey I Shrunk the Kids machine. Let me bring it back here. So the dense plasma focus device, where did I put that? I have a lot of tabs open right now. Where is that anyway? Dense plasma focus device. Damn, I forgot which tab it is. But you guys remember, right? When I showed you the, those little electrical nodes and then the plasma sheath filling up and then all went inside of Mount Meru. That's what he's showing you, okay? So what he's showing you here, right, with these 56 little nodes or whatever all the way around. By the way, there's pictures of the Earth that look just like this too. And this is actually the North Pole in those pictures, in ancient pictures. Some of you know what I'm talking about. Hold on, I might be able to find it. Let's find it. Let me see if I can find it. Let's go Mount Meru, Hollow Earth, black and white. I remember it's in black and white. Weather, something weather. Hold on, let me see. Images. Here it is. Boom. I knew I'd find it. So here it is right here. This is the Earth. Right? 1968, United States Environmental Science Service Administration published satellite images of the Earth. That's the North Pole in their satellite images. Now, hold on, let me open this up. Let's compare this, shall we, to what Anthony Peratt is showing you, which is the tip of the dense plasma focus device, which is that right there. Mind-blowing. It's the same thing. What you're looking at is, pretend that's an island at the center of the world, okay? That's this island right here, all right? It's the same thing, right? All of these little nodes, which are mountains, which are plasma volcanoes, that encircle this island, right? They shoot up, they fill with energy, and then they are attracted towards Mount Meru. That energy goes down inside of Mount Meru where it creates a central star. That star becomes so tight that it shoots a beam of light, the blue beam, up into the sky, up into the heavens, and the negative side of it goes down into the earth. Let's continue.
Yeah, 56, and it does. Dome Ceiling, 5th Street Church, Seattle. This is very close to the Forbidden City of China ceiling picture. These ceiling pictures show up, and they generally have 56 periodicity around the side. So if people remembered this, and it's sacrosanct, and they continue to use it over and over again. This is brand new. This is the Grand Atrium in Saudi Arabia, which is brand new. And again, they didn't draw it circular, but they certainly put 8x7 panels of light around here, as well as some structure in the center. Again, carrying it on. The Aborigines today will produce pictures that might as well have been drawn, might as well be petroglyphs that are 4,000 years old, and they'll do it today. That's how accurate it is. That's Neolithic stone ruins. This is the Canela village, north central Brazil. Has very interesting. They have these 56 avenues coming out, and a house, a village house, on each side. Like that. Anybody want to look at that Neolithic stone ruins again?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Okay. So
the 56 Aubrey house.
excuse me?
The 56 Aubrey house is done in.
Yeah, it's Aubrey. Yeah.
Aubrey.
Aubrey. Yeah. Okay. You have to pronounce it right. I have to use English here.
So another form of this, you're looking at the aerial view of Stonehenge. Now, Stonehenge has fallen apart. They put it back together. It's been remade, in modern times or whatever. But regardless, we see the same concentric rings, shapes, the same number, 56, right? All of this is what people saw in the sky. They built it on the ground, and they drew it in the rock, and they made religions after it. And yeah, it's really interesting. Let's continue on.
Okay, so this is what it looks like today, or whenever they took the picture. Actually, I visited the place before. They put the fence around. I'm going to go back there. Okay, finish this thing up. Which is a nice. It's not the biggest. Okay, so what we're going to do is, first off, we're going to accept the accepted reconstruction, whatever, where they were on the Navajo, and do this with around the world.
How long
millennia. Yeah,
I thought that there were 56. Must have been seen for a long time, so that they
millennia. Yeah, I think they're.
She said it must have been seen for a long time. He said a millennia. That's 1,000 years. That's the 1,000 years of light. That's the 1,000 years of a golden age, not a dark age. That's the age of light. It is the, what do you call it? The millennial rule of Christ, etc. And it's cyclical.
Number, their dating is...
They're talking about this as if it happened a long time ago. See, here's the problem with modern cosmology. If you believe in modern cosmology, the planets have all settled in their places. This event is never going to happen again. Why? Because from their view, from the electric universe view, these are all planets that aligned, and that's what causes this beam of, whatever, plasma beam in the sky. So in order for this to happen, the planets have to once again bunch together and get really close. They will get really close, but it's not because they're physical places. It's because they are luminaries. The planets themselves, just like the sun and the moon and comets and all that stuff, they're lights in the sky. And when the light above that is coming through the lens of the dome, right? When it gets narrower and narrower and narrower, guess what happens to the luminaries? They'll get closer and closer and closer until you have a galactic alignment of all the planets and everything meeting in the middle. And then that's whenever you have, the sun will be there, which will cause a death ray from the Death Star to come down and burn and scorch the earth and stuff. But it will be immediately replaced with the geoplasma. That will be a life-giving blue beam of light that shoots up from Mount Meru at the center of the world. Boom, from this place right here. Okay, this is the camp of the saints. All of these Southlands, the human lands, all these places, all these countries, they're vying to get closer and closer and closer to the Arctic as they can. They're lying and saying, oh, resources and, whatever, the permafrost melting. So we all really need ancient parasites and frozen mammoths and stuff like that too, right? Which, by the way, the mammoths are frozen because of the depressurization of the atmosphere, which causes a strong vortex of wind, and there's a downdraft to that just outside of the updraft, just like in a tornado. That downdraft pulls super cold air, just like you saw in the movie The Day After Tomorrow, and it freezes instantly all the life around the Arctic Circle, including mammoths and other things, right? So this was a recent event. Anyways, the governments of the world, they'll get closer and closer because their leaders, at the very least, their leaders are related to, the nobility of the world are related to survivors. There's 13 different tribes from this region, from the Garden of Eden, from Hyperborea, etc. The 13th is the priestly class, which represents anyone, if any, that lived on Mount Meru itself. Okay, they're sort of excluded, so there's really 12. But these are the bloodlines, okay? These are the surviving bloodlines from the Garden of Eden, from Hyperborea, from Atlantis, etc. They were kicked out because of the deluge. They became nomadic. They started setting up shop all the way around the world. And that's why their leaders of today are related to them. They know these secrets. They're scooching in closer and closer so that they can return to Hyperborea, so that they can race to which mountain? Mount Meru, right? And they want to get as close as they can. Problem is, I don't know how they don't know this, or maybe they do. Maybe some do. I don't know. But all those people, all the armies that are going to gather in Armageddon and stuff, they're going to surround the camp of the saints, which is what this is. The sunlight is going to spiral in towards Oz, towards the North Pole, creating a yellow brick road as it bakes and scorches everything along the way. And the armies of the world will be burnt up all together, all at once. And then after that, when all the bad guys are dead, you and I can look for the sign, which is the rising of the blue beam, the good life-giving earth energy, and you can happily follow the yellow brick road as it spirals in towards Oz. All right, let's continue on.
The English Heritage Foundation, they use something like 14 deer antlers, carbon-14 dating, and deer antlers are...
Carbon-14 dating is unreliable, at the very least, because time is speeding up. Okay, it's a totally different topic. That's not really totally different. It's a total omen of the apocalypse, okay? The luminaries are speeding up. Like I said, they're tightening in their circuit. Daytime's getting smaller and smaller, more and more focused. The light's getting more and more focused, and therefore it's getting brighter and brighter. The moon is getting brighter. The sun is getting brighter. The stars are getting brighter. And these are all omens of the apocalypse. And those who have the ears to hear and the eyes to see and a mind of wisdom should probably take these things into account. But anyways, carbon-14 dating, all that stuff is off because these people don't take into consideration the shortening of the days, which we now live in.
But how long was this object seen in the sky? So people were...
As far as I can tell, about a millennia. About a millennia to go from 56 to 4.
About 1,000 years. Right? That, I mean, it's about 1,000-year period.
I see. And they were able to count it.
They had, they had good telescopes or good eyesight because they were able to see it, and do a very good job, like, based on what everybody else drew too. Not drew and constructed in any number of ways, many ways, far beyond the 100 that I'm talking about here, ways of reproducing what they saw in the sky. This is an overlay on the Forecroc Rapids petroglyph. Here we can start to see the rotation of the Birkeland filaments. That is not shown in Stonehenge, but nevertheless the overlay is quite well. You start to see which is come down to 4 filaments sequence evolve. I think I probably already showed you this. Okay, and now I'm trying to explain. I think I probably. So how does a 56 filament sequence evolve? I think I probably already showed you this. Okay, and now I'm trying to explain each and every one of the petroglyphs that I showed you on that panel that looked like garbage when I started. Okay, but I haven't shown you all the petroglyphs. And you start to see, which is what we see in the laboratory, we start to see these go off. And as I showed you in that one picture, they go off until eventually they come down to 4. And as I showed you in that one picture, is quite well, and you start to see, which is what we see in the laboratory, we start to see these go off. And as I showed you in that one picture, they go off until eventually they come down to 4.
My bad. All right, so keep this in mind, all right? If it's true, if what I am positing, if what I'm suggesting and theorizing, right, my supposition, my hypothesis or whatever, is that the inner Earth, as well as the surface, will depressurize. The atmosphere of the inner Earth, which it does have atmosphere, depressurizes. All those gases are released and they form plasma pillars and beams of light in the sky, right? The smallest ones towards the outside will be seen first. They will be seen first because they're the smallest cave systems. The closer you get to the center of the world, the larger they become. Think of it like a fluid. If the Earth is filling up with water, then it's going to come up out of those places that have the smallest cracks first, right? So you're going to see all these plasma beams and pillars and stuff starting at the outside southern edges, and then they're going to get closer and closer as they're all shooting off into the sky until you finally have the 56, or the 24 elders around the throne of God, and then you have the 4 living creatures. They'll show up next, and then you have or you have the anode and cathode. Actually, no, the anode and cathode are very large. So those would show up second to last. Those would be the 2 witnesses, okay? So those would fill up almost last, second to last. You would see those 2 beams shoot up into the sky, which will affect our weather patterns and pressure systems and stuff. And then the last one, right? The last one shows up, which is the king light of the world.
So how does a 56 filament sequence evolve? I think I probably already showed you this. Okay, and now...
That looks just like the Apple, right? Doesn't it look like the Apple logo? That's interesting.
Now I'm trying to explain each and every one of the petroglyphs that I showed you on that panel that looked like garbage when I started. Okay, but I haven't shown you all the petroglyphs that are on the panel or elsewhere. Okay, and here we have petroglyphs that look like this. I mean, the people either have to be mad. Actually, you can see the origins of the American Indian headdresses and other headdresses drawn around the world in the petroglyphs. So where did these come from? Well, as this intense aurora comes in, again, it goes through these pinches, and you get several of these plasmoids out there as it funnels in, and then you have these 56 filaments coming around. And what gave them the idea? Oh well, first, okay, I have to say something about auroras, and the reason I have to say something about auroras is because I've edited 6 or 7 journals on magnetospheric physics, so I can talk about auroras.
One second. All right, so remember those frilly clouds? And you'll see this all the time on the petroglyphs. People think it's a snake, just a super extra long snake or whatever. Here's an example right here. Right? If you look at this one, It's way up high in the sky. If this is the blue beam shooting up to the sky, that's way up high in the sky. So that's the same frilly cloud that I showed you earlier that Jesus gets sucked up into during the ascension. It's the same one where the hand of God reaches down out of it, etc. Also, oftentimes they will draw this if it's pointing downward. It represents plasma. It represents lightning and stuff like that too. Okay, it's very simple to understand. You just have to look at it from a childlike mentality.
There's other things that some of you know about that I don't think I'll ever be able to publish. But anyway, here's the Earth down here. Here's the what is pictured to be today's plasma coming in from a solar storm on both the south and north poles. Now we know this one came in only on the south.
My bad. All right, so remember, he has more of a modern academic cosmology that there is no dome and you can just go forever into the stars and all that stuff, right? He's going to be talking about the magnetosphere. So in the modern cosmology, in academics, the magnetosphere, the Earth is a ball, and the magnetosphere wraps around it. It looks exactly like the Spider-Man logo, but that magnetosphere is what keeps the plasma out, and it is also what pressurizes the gases directly underneath it and keeps them in, okay?
But anyway, it forms these plasmoids, so if you're into auroras, that's important. If you're into something else, that's important too. And
hold on, I actually want to show you a picture of the modern magnetosphere. Magnetosphere. Let's check it out. I want to show you this real quick. All right, so this is a perfect one right here. Check this out. So if you take a look at the modern magnetosphere, it's the Spider-Man logo, period. That's where that comes from, okay? When the magnetosphere goes down is whenever we reach a neutral point in the polarity shift, and that's when people get superpowers, okay? Like, and your hair will stand up on end just like Spider-Man's does. You get spider senses, which is telepathy or a form of telepathy. Your hair stands up because of the electricity. But anyways, where's the moon in all of this? I want to see that. The moon is a plasmoid in this particular model. Let me see. Let me type in moon. It's pretty interesting. Yeah, so this probably will work. Yeah. So on the back end of this spider, right? The spider magnetosphere from the modern Earth or whatever, right? You have the Earth right here as the body of the spider. And then the moon is right back here as like a little secondary baby spider or something, right? And it's, what do they call that? It's basically a plasmoid. I had a picture of it somewhere where they actually say it's a plasmoid. Let me see if I can find it real quick. I can't remember what I typed in to find that, but one of these diagrams show exactly where the moon is. Instead, they have what they call a plasmoid. Hold on, let me just type in plasmoid. There we go. Check that one out. Bam. Found it. All right, so check this out. Same diagram. Okay. This is where the moon is in the academic model. And here on the diagram, this would be the Earth. That would be the moon. Plasmoid. The moon is a plasma. It's a light. Anyways, I thought that was interesting, so I wanted to share that with you. Let's close some of these real quick so I can save on memory on my computer so we can finish the presentation. We'll keep that one. Let's get rid of that. All right, let's go back to the presentation. I hope you guys are enjoying this. Some people might not be your cup of tea, but I'm telling you, this is crucial. All of this is very crucial, and it's very simple to understand, okay? You don't need degrees or anything to understand much of what I'm trying to, what I'm getting out of this and sharing with you. You don't have to go to college for years and years and years. You don't have to pay me anything to get a rolled up certificate or a degree or a piece of paper or anything like that. All right? This is all free, and it's, in my opinion, some of the most important information that I've ever heard, at the very least. But I'm going to say my perspective is this is the most important information for humanity, aside from being a good person, like aside from love and, you know, happy go lucky feelings and stuff like that. Like the love is to me the most important. But aside from that, being saved from the apocalypse, from an actual apocalyptic event, and, you know, hell on earth and whatnot, mutations and galore and all that. This is crucial to understanding, so you can understand what's dangerous, what's not dangerous. It's like learning what fire is, you know, playing with fire and using it to your benefit or being harmed by it because you don't understand how it works.
And so we will draw a picture of this aurora, of the aurora cone being pinched and coming in, and one starts to get an idea of what the people were up to when they were drawing figures like that, and why it is double rayed like that. It's always double rayed, and sometimes with dots, but it usually has this double ray structure. And so we're looking back up at the morphology of this intense aurora, and I think that these are 56 filaments. Again, they've reduced now to 28, and they're going to come down to 4. Okay, what other evidence is there to support this? This is something that was just pointed out to me. This is a very bad picture. This is a vessel of ore, which is currently on display at the University of Pennsylvania Museum of Archaeology and Anthropology. That is helping to. It didn't come in time, and ore is a 3rd millennia sort of vessel, which really gives it away. I'm not going to show you any pedal design because I wasn't smart enough to go from the 56 down to eventually down to the 8, down to the 4. I started with 56, and then I left out stuff, and then I started again with final morphology for 56 Birkeland filament cylinders. The 4 remaining Birkeland currents. These are the magnetic fields, the synchrotron emitting magnetic fields around the outside of each one of these. These are at two different times here. And so what are the petroglyphs that match this? Well, Mesoamerica has got the largest. This incidentally is called a kinkun. Okay, and this is the most reproduced petroglyph in Mesoamerica, although you find it everywhere. The museum has got some very good examples from the East and the Middle East, Mediterranean countries. There's also some, I photographed myself, some very good ones in Valcamonica, as well as Arizona, New Mexico, and so on. And so one has got this is trapped plasma that is being heated up by these currents pushing in, being heated up very bright, as are these very bright here, and then in this configuration here again shows up. This is a final configuration. At this point the plasma snaps and it's gone.
Okay, my theory on this is that, like I said, at the island at the top of the world, this one right here, you'll have at least 4 plasma volcanoes, one on each island, and they emit their own lights up into the sky along with the large one in the center. People look at the apex dome, the firmament, it reflects the land below, and they see 4 dots of light on each side. They also see the circle. They see all of this reflected in the sky above.
That's it. So I hope that, I think that's my last one. Conclusions. Okay, petroglyphs not only carry the orientation of an intense synchrotron light emitting column coming into the Earth's south magnetic pole in prehistory, and again dating is very, very hard, perhaps 4 millennia ago, but I'm not sure, but also the complete temporal evolution graphically. In other words, one can take these petroglyphs of one type, put them all together and make a movie of the evolution, just as one does with the supercomputer simulation. That's what's contained in it. Also, the orientation and the petroglyph, as you look at it from different angles of inclination, give you the figure of what was.
I do want to comment on that. So what he was saying is all the different petroglyphs happen at different periods, different points on the timeline. So as we fast forward in time, the plasma that was seen in the sky is going to start taking on different shapes and different columns and different things, right? And you'll see it in different ways depending on your latitude and your proximity to it, right? The same thing happens with this island at the top of the world. You can, if you take all the maps that feature these 4 lands, these quadrants, and these islands, right? And you start looking at all of them together, over time you can see this island sink. Okay, as the water levels rise, you can see it, and this island, as well as other phantom islands in the area, they appear and disappear cyclically, time and time again, as the water levels rise and fall. Okay, and I believe we're heading into a time when they're about to appear. once again. People are going to start seeing the strange lights in the north. So if that happens, you know, give me a shout out or something. All right, let's continue on.
Was in the sky. So that's it. Thank you.
I guess he's going to do a Q&A. Yeah. Oh, questions. Okay.
Yes, Brian.
I just wanted to tell you what was Thomas Grove's basis for suggesting there had been an intense aurora thousands of years ago.
Oh, what was Tommy Gold's? I don't know. I don't know. I've got the paper, but I really don't know the answer to that question. What was the genesis of why?
Okay, so instead of listening to his Q&A, I would like to do my own Q&A, and we'll do it for as long as you guys have questions. I know you guys who are watching live are about 10 seconds behind, so I'm going to wait patiently, and I'm going to get my chat pulled up. If you have a question for me about anything that I've discussed, gone over, any of my theories, my books, my content on YouTube, my ideas, I know this is the time to ask questions, okay? So I know I don't expect everyone to understand completely everything that I have shared with you, but I do expect, if you're interested in this, especially 221 people that have been watching for mostly this whole time, I expect that you have retained some at least, and other parts of it maybe you don't vibe with, maybe you don't get it, and now is your time to ask a question, okay? I'm not saying I'm the expert and I have all the answers or anything like that, but I am saying I consider myself to be well-studied, and this is an area of particular interest to me that I do study often and write about, okay? So my first book, Ancient Oblivion, The Plasma Apocalypse, is available on my website, JayDreamerZ.com, or you can get a vanilla copy, no autographs, no merch, nothing like that, from Amazon. And my second book is all about this central island at the center of the world, the plasma beams, the places of power, the fountain of youth, all of that stuff, okay? So do check it out. If you want to support me, go to, you can send me a message, a personal message through PayPal. You could say hi, you could say, ask, you know, I mean, you can't really ask a question because I can't really respond to PayPal messages, but you can send me a donation with a message. If you want to support me, you can go to my Patreon and you could join the different tiers. I should have 9 tiers to match the 9 toroid donut things. But anyways, how many tiers do I have? I might have 9, I don't remember. But anyways, there's all kinds of tiers. There's a chat on my Patreon as well. Let me jump in here and see if there's any questions from everybody in the chat. Let me get the chat pulled up. And if you have a question, please try to type in @Jay or JayDreamerZ. That way I can see it easier. I'm going to close out some of these tabs, including the one that we're on right now. I'm going to leave some of these open, actually. Some of these are good references if you guys do have questions. All right, let's close the Easter one. Bam, bam. That one was pretty cool, but I'm going to close that one. I'll close that one. We'll close that one. I'll keep that one. Oh, here's another picture that shows the apex dome. Hold on, let me show you guys. Another one of these golden age from the golden sky, dark era Renaissance pictures, right? This is the apex dome at the top of the world, at the top of the firmament. 3 beams of light, anode, cathode, and Mount Meru, going straight down into this cracked open, hollowed out mountain that has baby Jesus wrapped up like a mummy inside of it, right? Here's that dude that, oh, you can't see him. Anyways, all right, let me get rid of that one. Bam. This is my video, The Destroyer, the Blue Sun, if you want to check that out to learn about what's coming. That's just random. I'll keep that. The 9 rings, all of this stuff is about what we just went over, okay? The realm of men, mutated people, the toroidal fields and donuts and stuff, the owl shape, the plasma squatter man atlas shape with the 2 toroidal eyes on either side, tokamak looking owls, the wound of Jesus, the vesica Pisces that's created through the plasma physics at the center of the world, Jacob's ladder also, right? And see how it's like kind of bending? Just like Cocopelli, they kind of make it at an angle. No one's going to make a bending ladder, you know what I mean? But so instead they put it at an angle. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I'll keep that one. Book of Miracles, if you want to see a lot of medieval examples, because this happened during the medieval times. I think that's the last time that this actually happened. You'll see that people documented this. They documented the plasma skies in many different ways. This is just one reference material that you can look up. They have the dates. You can easily translate, I think it's Latin or something that's in here. You can easily translate that, or you could go watch my video on it called The Book of Miracles. Oh, here's everybody in the chat. All right, cool. Damn, the chat's flying. You see that? It's catching up right now. I have no idea how long that's going to take for it to catch up. Oh, here we go. All right, cool. First one I see is any questions? Any questions? Any questions? I saw something about survival. If you guys type in my name, Jay or JayDreamerZ, it's easier for me to catch. Let's see. I'm not seeing any questions. So. Oh, here we go. Dabbing Good. Dabbing Good. Where are you? Says, Fountain of Youth. Please tell me why scientists don't research the monarch butterfly. I have no idea. They literally live 9 times longer. In some generations, humans would live 1,000 years if they know why it happens. Right on. I don't think that's a question directed at me, though, and I don't understand what you're asking. Let's see. Anything else? Oh, Dabin also says, I believe the South Pole is under the North one. I respect your opinion, but it's my opinion that the apex dome is the South Pole, actually. So you have Mount Meru in the middle, and you're right, too, because it goes all the way underneath. So you have the North Pole in the middle, the South Pole, because the dome wraps all the way around, so does the magnetic field, which means the apex dome is south, right? And as you go down towards Mount Meru, it'll flip. The magnetic current will flip. But inversely, in the underworld, they also have their own South Pole, which is down underneath the Earth. Let's see, anything else? Yeah, I guess nobody has any questions. Unless I'm not caught up in the chat. I think I am, though. Cool. All right, sweet. Well, I think I am. If you're interested in like one-on-one consultations or something, if you go to my website, I do offer one-on-one consultations. Let me just click on my website here. I'll show you guys around real quick, and then we'll wrap things up. Hold on. Let me mute this music here. All right, and I think what I'll do is I'll just fix this up. I'll give you guys a quick little tour of my website, and we'll call it a night. So here's my website, JayDreamerZ.com. As you can see right behind me, Plasma Apocalypse. Boom, right here, right? There are a few sections that are going to be added to this pretty soon, including the next one, which will be the Apex Dome. Okay, but you can learn all about the Plasma Apocalypse here. You can go to Ancient Oblivion. You can learn about all kinds of Ancient Oblivion stuff over here. North Pole, Plasma Volcano, Geology, Mud Fossils, etc. Why was I showing you this? Oh yeah, my merch and my services that I offer. Books and merch. So see that? You just go over here to the edge. Click on that. And if there's music playing, I always put a stop play button. So if there's music playing, you don't like it, just click on that. But yeah, so I'm available as a guest speaker. So I actually just posted, I was a guest on someone's channel, and I just posted that whole interview in my post section. Go check that out. I'm happy to do interviews. I can't talk about this enough. I will talk your ear off at the interview, okay? Or if I'm a guest speaker. And sometimes I can be guest speaker in person at events and stuff like that. You know, you got to email me so we can work out travel and plan things out and stuff like that. Anyways, I got keychains I invented. You can also use them as a necklace pendant. It's got Mount Meru with the blue beam on one side, my logo on the other side. Nice, sleek, black keychain metal and stuff. I've got mini posters for sale as well, and here's my books. So if you get 2, you get a discount. You get autographs, you get merch, you get stickers, you get bookmarks, all custom, all made by me. And if you want a consultation, here's the information over here for a private consultation. Okay, so some people take me up on this, and I'll have a private video conference with you, one-on-one. I'll answer whatever questions you have. If you're interested in survival, I will give you every tip I have. And you know, if you want a longer session, we can look into your local geography, the bedrock in your area. I can give you tips on, you know, where to head to, where to go, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. What else? I think that's pretty much it for my self-promotions. Check out my Patreon. And, let me show you some other stuff. So if you go to main menu and you go to members, let's click on that. That'll be fun. I haven't done that in a minute. I got to sign into my own website. That's crazy. All right, hold on. Let me refresh this. Members should work. There we go. All right, I got appropriate music on everyone. Lucy Walker and Siegfried Thomas Semander and Elijah Spearman look like they're some of the most recent people to join. There are a lot, okay? So you can actually create a whole profile. You can put a picture if you want, right? So you could put a picture. You can have your name, whatever name you want to put there. If you click on these people, you can actually create a profile. So let me search. Do I have mine on here? You can search for people too. So let me search mine. JayDreamerZ. Bam. Oh, well, where's mine? Well, there it is. There's a fake version of me on my own website. That's interesting. Here's mine. See how it says admin? That's me. Boom. All right, so you click on that. So yours will be the exact same. You can actually create a profile, just like Facebook, okay? You can post videos on your profile. You can post pictures. You can post images. As you can see, I posted a few things here myself. You could tell people all about you, whatever you want to do on your profile. And then also we have the esoteric library or the members wall. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep the members wall around because I don't have the time to check on it. Oh yeah, that's good. That's a good jam. I haven't had the time to check on this in a while. I might leave it up just for you guys. And I'll check on it from time to time. As you can see, this is where the members post stuff for one another. It's not really for me. It's not really to get my attention like, hey, JayDreamerZ, check this out. It's for you guys. And it stays up here. Okay? It's the members wall. What else? Oh, there's categories. What is that? Let me see categories here. Wix forum is no longer supported. Oh, that's right. I got an email from Wix saying that they don't support the members wall deal. So I might have to take that down. I'm not sure. But anyways, esoteric library right here. Over 10,000 volumes of esoteric material that I personally have uploaded. It took me years to upload everything. For example, you can see here. Okay, will you stop playing music that's copyrighted? How do I stop the music on my own website here? All right, it was just a little chime. All right, alchemy. 223 items of alchemy. These are folders with individual books inside of those folders, all about alchemy. American Indian tribes, ancient Egypt, ancient lost civilizations, ancient symbols, angels. As you can see, they're in alphabetical order. Here, let me put it up so you can see it easier. Well, how do I do that? Well, I guess I can't shrink it too much. Oh, I could scooch it over. There we go. Ancient Egypt, ancient lost civilizations, ancient symbols, angels, antique Bibles. If you're looking for like really old Bibles, I've got like 50 copies of different ones. Arcane maps. This section's pretty cool. Astronomy, Australian Aborigines, cartography, Celtic mythology, Celts and Druids, comets and meteors, cuneiform, demonology, English folklores and myths, Far East myths and legends, Freemasonry, gypsies, herbalism, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on. 10,000. The occult library. I highly recommend this section right here. This is my favorite section of my own esoteric library, right? So for example, if I just click on the first one, occult library number 1, it takes me to this page. And it's got alchemy, 66 books of alchemy, astrology, divination, earth mysteries, Egypt, Gnosticism, blah, 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 occult periodicals, Rosicrucianism, all kinds of cool stuff. Watch this. Check this out. You want to learn more about You want to learn more about Nikola Tesla's inventions? Watch this. This is one of my favorite things. Nikola Tesla. Bam. I'm going to type it into the search bar, which is right behind me. You can't really see it. So there you go. See, I typed in Nikola Tesla right over here. Right there, next to this jelly. So I'm going to hit enter. And we're going to search Nikola Tesla. Bam. Or how about I just do Tesla? Tesla. All right, cool. So here's 22 items in the Nikola Tesla folder. Interview with the Nikola Tesla electrical wizard. Complete patents. This is one of my favorite things in the whole deal. Complete patents of Nikola Tesla. So click on that bad boy, and you can download this. Every patent of Nikola Tesla is here. Okay, which actually is something I just skipped. Kind of looks like something we just reviewed. Where'd that thing go? Here, United States Patent Office. Boom. Nikola Tesla of Smiljan Lika, Austria-Hungary. Assigner to the Tesla Electric Light and Manufacturing Company of Rathway, blah, blah, blah. Dynamo Electric Machine. This has all of his patents. Like this, look how far this goes on and on and on and on. Look, I'm just going to keep going. Keep going. This is like hundreds of pages that I'm skipping through right now. It's not even showing all of them because I'm like going way fast. But all of his patents are here. So if you're interested in stuff like that, you might like my esoteric library. What else do I got? The Hall of Fame. This is just a permanent thank you to people that join my Patreon. I don't know why it's not letting me go to it. That's weird. Why isn't it letting me go to the Hall of Fame? Maybe it's because of like where I am. Or, I don't know. I'm constantly fixing my website. There we go. Hall of Fame. Bam. Now I'm updating this right now. So right now I've got 2 people on it. I think there's a third person possibly that I'm going to be adding. But it's under construction. And I'm working on it right now. I'm going to update it when I update the Apex Dome page on my website. And this is all going to be animated. So this whole Hall of Flame thing will, or Hall of Flame will be here. And I'm gonna put everyone's names and stuff on here. And once you're there permanently, forever. It's my forever thank you to people that show support on my Patreon tier, on my final Patreon tier called the Hall of Flame. What else we got? If you want to join, membership is right here behind me. So check that out. All of these tabs on top are free. So if you want to read the Ancient Oblivion, you could click on that. Boom. Everybody has access to this. It's got sweet music all over this whole thing. You can go and check it out. You can see if you're interested in it. You know what I mean? It might look different if you have a dark reader. I have a dark reader enabled. So like the background looks blue for some reason. If you don't have the dark reader on, it'll look normal. But yeah, these are all free tabs, so you can check it out. Some of the other tabs, like the elves, this one's free too, so you can click on that. You can just get a feel for all this stuff that's over here. Oh, that's a sweet song. You can get a feel for all the information. If you want some that are locked and for members only, there's a 24-hour cram session when you first join. So you can cancel before the 24 hours is up. You won't get charged anything. You could cram as much as you can. I dare you. There's no way you could learn everything on my website in 24 hours, but feel free to check it out. There are hidden things on my website. I'm going to show you. So for example, I'll just show you one real quick. All right. Just for funsies. Go to Ancient Oblivion, go to the North Pole. Let's click on that one. Now from the North Pole, you'll need to go all the way west. West is down in the ancient world. So if you go all the way west, all the way down. There's a little link down here that says under construction. Click on that link and read. I'll give you a quick, I'm gonna flash it. Okay, I'm just gonna flash it. There's a reason it's hidden. Okay, but I'm gonna click on it. Whoa, bam! Oh snap! Okay, let's go back. That's too much. I already showed you too much. Anyways, there's hidden stuff like that on my website too, for, you know, topics that I don't really want out there. And you know what I mean. All right, Plasma Apocalypse, Ancient Oblivion, Omens too. I'm probably gonna start updating the Omens section. So that's my website. It's sweet. It's like Disneyland for truth seekers, I think, and it's pretty cool. And that's it. So I don't know how to say goodbye. So let me stop screen sharing. There we go. Cool. So, oh, I did just mail out a keychain order, and I mailed out a book order. So if that's you and you ordered 2 books or you ordered a keychain, it's on the way. One person was in Colorado, whoever ordered the keychain. I forgot where the other person was. But anyways, that's all I got. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope I was able to translate some of the advanced plasma physics descriptions and stuff in ways that help you to understand it easier. All right. All right, cool. I'm going to go be dad, play with my son, and have dinner. Until next time, I'm JayDreamerZ saying good vibes and goodbye.